Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Players Take episode 108. I'm your host, Justin and Montrell, joined by my co-host. He wishes he made as much money as Dak Prescott, Montrell Rice.
Yeah, how much is you making? Like 40 million or some shit?
So it's a 4-year deal, 160 million, 164 with incentives,
What
126 million guaranteed. That's Dak Prescott's new contract, man.
Is that the biggest contract in NFL history?
No, Patrick Mahomes got that, which, I mean, totally justified. It was like 10 years, 500 million or some fucking nonsense.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, so Dacky boy, man, my boy Dak. That's my quarterback, man. That's my quarterback in Dynasty. And, man, he's getting paid. I'm very happy. I'm glad he's staying with the boys. I hate it when great players move around because they tend to it's hard to move teams. It is. A lot of players don't always fit in. So, a couple of my other guys are moving teams, and I don't know where they're going yet, and it's making me very anxious. So, but yeah, football contracts are getting cartoony. Quarterbacks are just so valuable, man. They really are. But how are you doing, Montrell? How's life treating you?
Could be better, but hey, man,
always
we keep moving.
We keep moving, right? We keep moving forward. I'm in a similar boat, just got to keep grinding forward every day.
Yeah.
Even if I don't want to, you got to do it,
Exactly.
man. You got to do it, So, okay. Well, we're going to have an interesting show this week, guys. There's basically nothing to talk about. So, Montrell and I are going to do, we're going to go through the news and, all that. But I guess let me go through the rigmarole first before I start explaining all this stuff. For those of you who haven't listened before, this is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast app of choice. And like we've been saying every week, please send us questions on Twitter to the Players Take, or send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com, and we will read it on the show. Anything, any topic you want to talk about that we were talking about, or weeks like this where we're barely going to talk about anything, you can let us know next week what we missed. So please do that. And so not much news. We're going to go over a couple news stories, talk about the games we're playing, and then we're going into a topic. So this will be a little bit of a shorter episode more than likely, but we always have an episode every single week. Always. No matter what happens. It does not matter. Rain, shine, sleet, snow, power outages, whatever. We always get it to you guys. So, Montrell, let's start like we always do with what we've been playing. Do you want to go first, sir?
I've been playing League of Legends, and honestly, I haven't really been playing that. I've been playing Neo 2 most of the time.
Yeah, I know you've been playing Neo 2, and I'm sad that we didn't play this week.
That's all good.
That's my fault, probably. Me and my brother did play a lot, so I have a lot to say about Neo 2 as well. So, Montrell, how are you feeling, man? It seems like you've gotten further than you did the first time you played it last year. How deep into the game are you at this point?
I'm still in the third continent, but I'm mainly just farming and stuff like that because I've been doing research and everything.
Okay.
Maybe I should just, power through the game because I found out the first 100 levels of Neo is actually early game, which is pretty weird.
The way the game works, it's like so Neo and Neo 2 are funny games because they present themselves as Souls-likes. That's what everyone thinks they are. But the reality of the genre that Neo is actually, they're actually ARPGs like Diablo. That's kind of what they are. It's just they're not top down the way Diablo is. But everything else about the game, besides the camera view and the control scheme, it's straight out of an ARPG, dude. The enemies, there's multiple different types of the same enemy. So they kind of have like more powerful versions of the same enemy that every level has that. The way the gear drops, there's different rarities of gear, there's gear sets, you have skill trees, and it's literally just like Diablo 2, and that it's straight out of that. So it's an action RPG, and the campaign, it's funny, the campaign is actually just kind of your like appetizer for what the game actually is.
Because I'm reading that and everyone's talking about these crazy missions they have and everything like that, and I'm like, I didn't even touch this stuff yet. So I am interested. I'm probably just gonna hurry up and finish the campaign so I can get into the main meat of the game, which is funny because I'm on a character that already has 40 hours into it, and now they probably have like 60 or 70 hours into it by now.
Well, what level are you? What's your level?
I'm only like level 70, I think.
Oh,
60.
okay. So I passed you. Okay.
Yeah,
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 me
you
and my
passed me.
brother we're at about 80. We're at the
Okay,
beginning of the fourth area of the game, and
okay.
I mean, so I have a question for you. We noticed this the last couple main missions we did. The difficulty has spiked tremendously, and I don't know. Are you noticing that, or like, have you
So
had
I'm
that kind of
playing
experience?
solo, so I
Yeah.
don't know if you guys are, but for me is I think that's the main reason I'm stuck in region 3 right now.
Hmm.
Because or maybe I am in the fourth region. I don't know. I think I am in the fourth region.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that where I think his name Saito Yoshimitsu or Saito something. Hold on, I'm sorry. I gotta search it up. It's Saito.
You're talking about the boss of one of the missions.
Yes, yeah,
He,
Saito Toshimitsu. It's
yeah.
a on like it's one of the online missions. They call it an online mission, but
Yeah, I saw you posted a shot of the Obsidian Samurai that you fought or whatever.
yeah, and I
Yeah,
fought him.
that's the end of the third region, pretty much.
Okay, yeah,
So
yeah.
if you've done all that and you're in the region after that, that's the fourth region. So
Okay, yeah, I think I'm just hitting the fourth region. But yeah, I
okay.
fought Saito, and then I fought Yusaki, or I think either
Hmm.
Yusaki or Yusuke.
Yeah,
I fought him. Um but Saito gave me the most problems. I actually beat the Black Samurai within one try.
yeah,
But Saito I had to fight him like at least 5 times before I got
really,
his. Yeah.
hmm.
He was hard for me.
Dude.
I don't know why.
For me, it was Honda, the guy with the spear, because
I
you unlock like 5 boss fights at that moment, and
really I beat him
yeah.
in like once.
Oh,
He's not hard
dude.
for me.
He kicked the shit out of me, dude. He does this thrust attack that was doing like 95% of my health if I got hit by it, you know? And I was fucking getting so mad, dude. I ended up beating him, but the thing was, my problem was is the two weapons I had, I think were like he was resistant to them for some reason, whether it was elements or
Mm.
something. Because my attacks when he went into his awakened form and he used his spirit, they were bouncing off of him. I couldn't combo him, you know.
Oh, okay.
So I was having a lot of trouble like getting through that part. But there was one attempt I finally like I fucked him up, dude. I broke his stamina like 3 times and grappled him to death. And yeah, I managed to just chain stun him like constantly. But but if I didn't do that, the fight was really hard because I wasn't able to like combo. So
Yeah, I noticed. I don't know if you guys noticed, but like I noticed too with the game, there are certain weapons that counter other weapons. Like I
yeah,
think for me, for I'm using primarily fist, so I
okay.
haven't even switched over back to my tonfas. Um, I'm a crazy person. I'm actually equipping weapons for their passives. Like I don't even care
Yeah.
about like the secondary weapon. Like I just want the secondary weapon for their passive and
Well,
stuff like
okay.
that.
So what I don't know is if you actually get those stats when the weapon's not equipped. I don't know. I don't actually
From what
know that.
I read, they are
Okay.
active.
Okay.
That's for what I read. I'm not sure though, but I have been doing that, and I don't know. I've been having maybe it's like a placebo effect, but I noticed like the biggest issue I have against are people with the two-handed the odachis. Like I, for some reason,
Oh
I
my
cannot
fucking
stagger those
god,
people at all.
dude.
They're fucking
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I know you're going with the Odachi build. So if you ever went online in PvP, I think you'll
Fuck
beat
them
like
up. Oh,
yeah.
I fuck people up, bro. The reach of that weapon is broken, dude. It's not. It's nuts. It is
Well, your
nuts.
strength is so crazy. Your strength and
Yep.
stamina is so crazy.
Yep.
I can't stagger you guys. It's
Yep. Because
ridiculous.
you can wear heavy armor and still be under the 70% threshold.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you're dude. Yeah, that's actually the build my brother's going for because he's using axes and odachis, and I can't wait to watch him be running around in full heavy armor and just like fucking tanking everything, you know. But yeah, the game's fucking crazy, man. I don't like I said, we hit a difficulty spike, and I don't know how hard this is in single player. I haven't gotten there yet solo, but in co-op, dude, there's the 2 missions at the end of the third region, the main missions. So the second and third main mission in the third region, and then the first main mission in the fourth region were fucking so hard, dude. Like because you know how co-op we played co-op. How co-op works is you share kind of like a life bar, not like your HP, when you get hit, but
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you die, if either player dies, that bar loses a certain amount of its, like, you lose a certain amount of that bar. But if you revive the person fast enough, you'll only lose a little bit, But
yeah,
the thing is, though, is the way these levels are, and in co-op, the enemy encounters that they put together are just so fucking god, dude. The game was pissing me off. Me and my brother were getting fucking wrecked, dude. Like, you're fighting like 4 mid-level yokai at the same time.
yeah.
Like,
It's getting ridiculous.
dude,
It is
like, you're
getting
fighting a
ridiculous.
Yoki, you're fighting one of those Medusa bitches, you're fighting a fucking those dudes that like dual, those giant like skinny dudes that like dual wield or whatever.
Oh, I hate those motherfuckers.
They're such a pain in the ass, but you're fighting them all together, and it's like, and you have these little bullshit gaki fucking running around too. It's just, oh my god, man.
Now the ones I hate, and it's just a personal hate for me. They're not really particularly hard, but I just hate them. Are the
Mhm.
ones that you know, mutate. The ones that
Yep.
are like regular soldiers, but their
Yep.
heads
And then
mutate.
then they have a giant snake head come out. Yeah.
Yeah,
They're a
and
pain
I
in the
can't.
dick.
I don't know if it's their hitbox. I just can't
Yeah.
get their hitbox down because when they try to do their burst attack, I can never time it right at
Mhm.
all. So,
No, they're annoying because their attack patterns are really slow. Like,
oh,
they'll
okay,
they'll
yeah,
they'll like they'll there's a like you'll notice they're going in to do an attack, but the timing on it is so weird, Like,
yeah,
it's not like most other enemies where most of the attacks in this game are really fast. Enemies try to hit you really quickly, Where these things, they just stand there and the head kind of wiggles a little bit, and then, he's like, he starts swinging the sword, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, when's the timing on it? And then it's like, oh, you're hit. It's
yeah,
just like
exactly.
such a pain in the ass, man. And they don't let you. They're annoying too because they'll shoot shit at you if they're at range. So they're a really annoying enemy. You have to take them out first because they won't let you. They'll hit you from afar.
Yeah,
So I'm doing a magic build because I'm doing a switchglaive. I'm maining switchglaive, and they're actually pretty susceptible to magic. So that's kind of how I take them out. But
yeah. I'm doing like
yeah.
a dual magic
Hmm.
ninja build. I really don't use my ninja skills anymore, but I use
Hmm.
my magic skills because
Yeah.
with fist, they pair really well with elemental weapons and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
status elements weapons.
Yep.
So, um, that's why I'm getting my magic up. But man, so it was weird with the fist build is they scale off of strength, but they actually what the game doesn't really tell you, or I don't think the game tells you. You just have to figure it out on your own. With fish, you're gonna need a lot of stamina, so you have to build them like they're tonfas. Because
Yeah.
not stamina, but
Skill.
key. So
Oh, okay.
you need a courage, heart,
Heart. Yep.
and a little bit of constitution as well, but mainly courage and heart. To get your key up and everything and your key stamina. And people are doing these heavy builds with fist, like because I guess because they build off of strength, so they're doing like heavy armor with it. I find, in my opinion, I think light to medium armor works really well with fist because your stamina comes back just like that really quickly, and
Yeah.
you're able to get off way more combos than heavy armor.
Hmm.
That's just my opinion, but I mean, a lot of these people have probably been playing this game for like thousands of hours, so they probably better at managing key than I am right now.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, it really depends on how much equipment you can wear without being encumbered. Because there's 3 different thresholds. Or 2 different really main thresholds. There's the 70% threshold, which is the one I always aim to be underneath. That's the one that, like, if you go over that, this is like the encumbrance in like Dark Souls. Your character moves slow, like you're a fat ass, and you roll
Mm-hmm.
slow. So that's unacceptable. You can't play at that level. But then there's 30%, I think, which is lower, and both of these encumbrance levels though do affect your stamina regen.
Mm.
If you get under 30%, you get a really, I think your stamina, like, regeneration is much higher. So
Okay.
that's like the bonus for being under that. However, you're extremely defensively weak, so you can't block as many attacks. You can't you get staggered really easily because your toughness is like super low. So
Okay.
that's the trade off for it.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to review. I think because what raises your weight limit is it stamina that stat.
Stamina is the main stat. Strength minorly does it, very little. Like
Okay.
it's extremely small. How much it affects it. So
Okay.
that's why that's the build. It's strength and stamina together, and then you can max out your armor pretty much.
Okay.
If you go high enough with those.
All right. Well, I'll definitely look into that. Yeah, this game is like super deep though. So,
dude, it's absurd, man.
Yeah.
It's so bonkers. Like, yeah, because I unlocked an attack last night with the Switchglaive that like is so much fucking better than anything I had up to this point. And I wasn't using the weapon that much because I wasn't really liking the combos I had. But I unlocked like a finisher move, like a combo ender, last night. That it's like this really fast spin attack that is AOE. And dude, I went into a solo mission yesterday because I was like doing some character maintenance and finishing up some stuff I couldn't do co-op. And dude, this attack wrecks things. Like it destroys enemy key. It was nuts. I was breaking yokai like crazy, which up to that point I had a lot of trouble doing. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's a lot of fun, man. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I haven't played the other two characters I've made in a while. Like it's been basically since we played a week and a half ago or so.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to get back to them. I want to play all these weapons and like just kind of see how they build out and play different builds. So the game's super fun. The difficulty spike though, painful.
It's crazy.
Definitely painful.
This game kind of piggybacking off our conversation. Piggybacking off our conversation last week. This game is a certified RPG.
Oh yeah, players 100%. The players take certified. We put our stamp of approval on Neo 2. It is an RPG.
It is an RPG.
Absolutely, through and through, fully. This game ticks all the boxes of what you're looking for in an RPG. Okay. So yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. Glad you brought that up, Montrell. You know, yeah. No, I mean that'll be our thing. You know, if we ever make our YouTube channel big, we'll have like videos where we just like evaluate a game and we put a stamp of approval on it or not.
I'll be even more controversial. This is more of an RPG than fucking Dark Souls. Way more.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Fuck yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Don't even talk.
And harder, by the way.
Oh yes,
than Dark Souls.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Yeah, no. These dude, some of these bosses, like the human enemies you fight, because you do like there's like one of the side missions. Did you do this one yet where you kind of spar with Oda Nobunaga?
Yeah.
My god, that fight was a pain in the dick. Because he uses like 3 different elements, man, in the fight. And he has all these different move sets that he transfers over to, and it was just like, man, dude, and he's super fast too. So it's like the game doesn't really let up. And actually there was another boss fight too where you kind of fight a character that's more set up like you because they can yokai shift, and they do it multiple times in the fight.
Yeah.
And that shit hurts. If they hit you with the yokai moves, man, you're done. You dead. So
I really do like the first of all, they give you a lot of fucking I forgot what it's called, but points for your stats.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just fun overall. They like teach you how to play the game. Because once I got done with the Saito fight, man, I was like, I learned how to use the fist properly and how to like stagger people really well. So now I'm like staggering people in like 2 or 3 combos, but like my key gauge is like still at 75%. Like it's crazy.
Yeah,
those fists are just super fast.
Dude, yeah, if you can keep your key management, if you can do it well, you can almost endlessly combo. Because there's a certain point where you start gaining more key than you used when you key pulse.
Okay.
And when you hit that point, yeah, it's pretty bonkers, man. So yeah, the game's super fun. I don't know. I'm not even close to finishing it either. Like I've got probably weeks left to finish this game. And that excites me a lot. So I'm not putting it down. You know, I know we got Monster Hunter soon, but
we'll see when that comes about. But yeah,
we'll fit it in.
Yeah,
we'll fit it in somehow. Okay, is that all you're playing, man?
Yes, it.
Okay, cool. I'm also playing Apex Legends still, of course, every week. Not much more to say there. And then Bravely Default 2. I did play this a bit more. I got out of my grinding phase early in the game. I got the the JP up abilities that the first class has, and
Okay.
now I'm fucking man. I'm getting so many job points per fight. It's awesome, dude. So I'm having a lot of fun with that too. I'm now in like I don't know, like the third dungeon probably in the game. This game it seems pretty big. So I've been playing like 10, 15, maybe even 20 hours, and I'm still in like the second city that you go to. You know, in the first one you're only there for a few hours, you know. So I've been at the second place for quite a while, and there's just like multiple dungeons that you have to go through for it. So game's really cool. I'm really having fun with it. So yeah, okay. Well, that's all we got for what we're playing. Let's move on to the news, Montrell. There's not much to talk about. Well, let's just get through it. So Bloomberg, they've done this like 2 years in a row now, I feel like, or 3 years in a row even. They released an article this week saying that they are expecting a Nintendo Switch Pro to drop sometime this year. And there's not much here in terms of complete specifics. They did say it's going to have a 7-inch display. It's going to support 4K when connected to a TV. And that's really about it. But it did sound like from the article this is going to be a significant power boost to the current Switch. And I think Nintendo kind of needs to do this. That's where I stand. But Montreal, what do you think? Are you ready for a Switch Pro?
Actually, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, freaking. My thing is, I think it's gonna run more powerful, but it's still gonna be the same amount of battery life, like off dock. If they can somehow
Yeah.
make it powerful and then make it run for 4 or 5 hours instead of 3 hours, like I'll be satisfied with that.
Well,
But I don't think
the
that's gonna
newer
happen.
model Switch goes from about 5.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, remember they released a revision like a year and a half ago, something like that. That
Yeah, I didn't upgrade, so I just got
yeah,
the regular Switch.
I did, and yeah, it's about 4 or 5 hours depending on the game.
Okay.
Which is nice. It's definitely a quality of life improvement. The Bloomberg report did say it would maintain what the battery life the new model has, so you will be getting an upgrade there if you haven't upgraded.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, 4K is whatever. I don't really think the Switch needs it, but I mean, I
Yeah,
guess at this point, just do it.
I'll be honest. When I'm playing games, like I was playing Xenoblade Chronicles on my 4K TV, and it looked pretty good. And I don't know if
Hmm.
it's just because it's a 4K TV or it's a really good 4K TV or it's because of the Switch, but it was
Yeah.
running it really well and it looked more crisp than a regular 1080p TV, if that makes any sense. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I think you're right. I don't really think it needs 4K, but everyone wants 4K, and it does make a difference. Even playing some of my older Xbox games, like Xbox One games, like it makes a difference when they upscales it
Hmm.
because the Xbox One S has a mode where it can upscale certain games to 4K. So um,
Yeah.
it does make a difference, but
Yeah.
I don't think
I
the
think for
Switch needs it.
me, I think frame rate's more important
Yeah,
for the Switch
and
because there are many.
just
Yeah.
overall
Go ahead.
general power and
Hmm.
power in general, like that's
Yeah.
what I think.
Yeah. There are many games on the Switch, many games that don't run at a crisp frame rate. um,
Yeah,
and Zelda Breath of the Wild was example number one. It's like the first game released for the fucking system, you know, and it's one of Nintendo's own games, and that game had frame rate drop issues, docked or undocked, and that's always been a problem with this thing. That's its biggest flaw. I guess Joy-Con drift is up there too, but you know, it's the biggest issue I have with this thing is that, you know, that frame rates are not smooth with every game. So I will look forward to that changing. You know, I think a Switch Pro. I think we're due for it. I mean, it's been 4 years since the Switch came out. You know, we passed the anniversary last week, and that's crazy to think about. You know, I was still in an apartment at that point. I wasn't in the house I'm in. You know, like that was a long time ago, dude. But here we are. I mean, yeah, 4 years into this thing's lifespan. So I think Nintendo wants to draw the Switch out as much as they can. If they can get 7 or 8 years out of this thing before they need to release their new whatever their new hardware is, I'm sure they will. They'll definitely do that. But um, I don't know. kind of makes me wonder what's next after the Switch. Like, what are they working on? You know, what's their plan? Because they've created a niche market that no one can really touch, and I don't see a reason to get out of it. You know, like Nintendo's kind of traditionally like they do different things with every console. You know, and I kind of hope they don't do that here. You know.
Uh, I don't know. Well, I'm glad that they're in their own market. I kind of like where they're going in the direction of the Switch. I guess that's. I just like how, yeah, we get games late for the Switch or whatever, but there are diehard Switch fans out there that will wait for it. And like you said, they're in their own market. They kind of ate up their whole 3DS market. And the thing I'm waiting for is for them to just somehow import 3DS games, maybe like the VC to the Switch, to where it can be that all-in-one portable console for everything Nintendo. I think that's where Nintendo needs to take the Switch. It can be everything Nintendo, like Super NES, 3DS, uh, DS games.
Yeah.
All those games. Fucking Game Boy Advance.
We all want
games.
it, dude. We all want it. They don't want to give it to us though for some reason. They've
I
had
just
4
think
years.
I just think it's such a wasted opportunity that console, because the Switch is like one of their most successful consoles, and
it will be. I mean, it's gonna blow by the Wii.
Like, it hasn't blown by the Wii yet? I thought it did.
It's in the 80s, 80 million, somewhere in there. But in terms of the handhelds, I mean, it's got a long way to go to beat the DS. The DS is over. Is I think the DS is the best selling like gaming piece of hardware ever. I think it's even higher than the PS2. So they got a long way to go with that.
I think they should make the Switch Lite a little bit cheaper. Like, put it in like almost 2DS range.
150.
Yeah, I think they'll sell in like more of the low income areas and some of the lower income countries, because I think that's the reason why the PS2 sold so well, because it was still really popular in those areas and stuff like that. People could still get some kind of gaming console to their child or whatever. And I think the Switch would be perfect actually for like a lot of these countries and everything like that. Like, it's just an expensive piece of hardware for right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it hasn't gone down in price in 4 years. It's still $300.
Yeah, that's expensive.
It's crazy, man. Yeah, it's like that it's maintained that price and they've not dropped it once, but they haven't had to. People keep buying it, man. Dude, it's selling more units than new consoles. Like it's nuts. The success of this thing. So, I think a Pro will be met very well in the market, but knowing Nintendo, they will supply constrain it the way they do with most of their shit that's in demand. So we'll see. Once we get an official word on it, I mean, if it's going to happen this year, I would expect them to announce it, probably around E3-ish time, like June or July, somewhere in there. But
speaking of supply constraints, I don't think the supply constraint thing will be happening anytime, or I think it will end by. I'm going to go on a limb and say I thought it was going to end by now, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say by August, I think everything will be back in stock, like full fledged, because a lot of these states are opening up, especially a lot of the southern states. They're opening up now. I still think California and New York, I think they're going to stay closed a little bit longer just because of their population density and they want to be safe and stuff like that. But anyway, I don't think the excuse for Sony is going to be they need to pressure fucking AMD. Like, they need to really pressure them to do something, because this is ridiculous now. I feel bad for people who don't have a PS5 now or Xbox One Series X. Like,
what are we at? 4 months?
Yeah, it's insane now. Like, it's
pretty crazy, man. I mean, I was browsing Twitter earlier and I saw multiple people being like, "Oh, am I ever gonna get a PS5?" And it's like, man, dude, it sucks, dude.
Yeah, I think this COVID. I mean, first of all, you take COVID very seriously, but I think now they're just using it as an excuse, especially AMD. I think they're just using it as leverage now, because they want
to artificially create demand.
Yeah,
because it works. Okay, it works. Nintendo has proven that the strategy works like many times over. So it definitely works. Sony's never been one to do that, but I could see AMD fucking doing it. they're not used to being in the spotlight, like
Well, because
they
isn't
want
it
to.
AMD who controls the chips for Sony and Xbox?
And Xbox. Yep.
Yeah.
Both of them.
So I remember we read
I
that
mean,
article a couple of days or a couple of weeks ago saying that they're going to
mhm,
prioritize like commercial laptops over or
yep.
enterprise laptops over, everything else. Which I mean, it makes sense on paper logistically.
Yep.
But at this point, man, it's just like, come on now, like people want their consoles now.
Yeah, man. Fuck businesses. We need our games, man. Give us our games, like shit. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't think August is unreasonable to expect. I mean, that's 5 months from now, like
Yeah.
I really hope it's over by then, I really do. Even though I've expressed kind of doubt that will happen, I just, that seems crazy though, that if it
It
doesn't.
seems like a lot more people are open to taking this vaccine now. Like people aren't turning into zombies and arms aren't falling off anywhere. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I think like the whole vaccination crowd is kind of dying down. The QAnon people are kind of dying down. Like that whole wave is done.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people, and I'm kind of part of this group that were just waiting.
yeah, I am
You
too. Yep.
wanted to see,
Yep.
like, do arms fall off? I don't know, like, I mean, it's unlikely, but I'm not the type that I don't want to be a guinea pig for a fucking vaccine. Like
No,
I don't.
I get it, and that's why I waited.
So
Even though they were like, "Oh, you're in priority," and I'm like, "I'm still gonna wait."
yeah,
So
but I'm a lot more open to it now, though.
yeah,
After a few months here, so yeah, hopefully things are. Hopefully we're on our way. This next football season, I'm gonna be curious to see. Hopefully we can have people in the stadium. Like
speaking
a
of
lot of
football,
people.
we
So
have to go to a game, me and you,
hey, man.
next year.
Oh, I'm down, dude. Dude,
Yeah.
my wife wants to go too. Like we should. We gotta make it happen, man.
All right. Bet.
I'm down. I'm down. I mean, Jerry will let us in, dude. He doesn't give a shit. He didn't give a shit about COVID. He'll let us in, baby. He's like, yo, you guys want to come? We're here. We'll do it. I'm Jerry Jones. Let's go. So Jerry's got our backs. Okay, let's move on to our other story. One of two of two. So the deal for Bethesda, the $7.5 billion deal, has been approved, and it is going on. It is going to happen. So the SEC has approved it, and who knows how long it's going to take for this to fully go through all the paperwork to get signed and everything like that. But this acquisition is happening. It's confirmed now. So Microsoft, to their part, has said that some games that Bethesda's making will be exclusive to Xbox consoles, PC, and Game Pass. So, Montrell, this, of course, restarted this whole discussion about, is the Elder Scrolls going to be exclusive, or is Fallout going to be exclusive? I mean, where are you at with this, man? Are you yeah, just tell me, where are you? Where are you with it? Which side do you fall
um, I honestly don't care if it's exclusive. Like the Elder Scrolls series,
on? Mm-hmm.
I don't really care. I mean, to
I
me,
mean, I don't either. I'm not playing it either way. So
yeah, in my head, I've always played like Fallout and fucking Elder Scrolls on Xbox or PC. So in my
mm-hmm.
head, it's always been exclusive, and it's so
Yeah,
weird to me when I hear people say like, "Yeah, man, I play Elder Scrolls on PS3 or
I
PS4," and I'm
actually
like,
agree with you. I
and
agree
it
with you. Yeah.
it's because doesn't this just seem like such a Xbox or a PC
Well, dude,
IP?
they're a PC developer. That's what they were. That's what Bethesda was for a
Yeah,
long time. And they've turned into a console developer, recently, as many devs have. But that's traditionally what they were. So I do still look at their games as PC games first, even if that's not true. And Xbox was always kind of the one they gravitated towards first, because I remember on the original Xbox, Morrowind was on Xbox. Like
I
they're
want to say it was an exclusive too.
it was, yeah, no, it wasn't on PlayStation as far as I know. I don't think it was. I mean, I'll look this up, sure, but I'm pretty sure that it wasn't on PS2. So yeah, it doesn't look like it was. So given that they have a history with Xbox, yeah, it wasn't on PS2.
Okay.
So they have a history with Xbox already, and even Oblivion, I think, was also on Xbox. And they brought it to 360, and I think they brought it to Xbox One as well. And I don't think that's on PlayStation platforms either. So they already had a history with Microsoft with some of these games. The big boys like Skyrim and Fallout 4 and Fallout 3, those were everywhere. But remember, I've talked about on the show before, Skyrim on PS3 was a fucking nightmare, dude. The game didn't work.
I remember people even talking about that, and then I think you even said there's still a glitch out there to this day.
Yeah, no, they didn't fix it. The game, as far as I know, the game is still kind of broken. Like, I'm sure it works like to a degree, but they never fixed all the issues, and they just kind of left the game there. As we moved on to other platforms, they just said, "Fuck it, whatever." We'll release it on PS4 where it will work. So,
yeah. So Oblivion was a exclusive. Then it came later to PS3, but Oblivion at first was on the Xbox 360. Yeah, it was on the Xbox 360 first, I think, for at least a couple years. And then the Game of the Year edition came out on 2007. And then it came to the PlayStation 4 around that, or PlayStation 3 rather, around that time.
So it was like 2009.
Yeah, so it looks like they always had some kind of deal with Xbox first.
Yeah.
So
it's not surprising.
Yeah.
But given that, even with that though, I think there's a lot of discussion, and Phil Spencer is not dispelling anything because I think he likes the fact that people are talking about this. So I mean, sure, whatever, fan the flames, do what you will, but to me, I still don't believe that the big guns like the Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield are going to not be on PlayStation. I do not buy that, because if they were going to say that, they would just say it, like if that was their intent, they just fucking say it, dude. Like, what point is there in holding that back? What are you gaining from holding that information back? Because that's a big get. That's like a big fuck you to Sony. So I don't know, man. That's where I stand on it. I don't know. Like, do you think Starfield? Let's just go with Starfield. Do you think Starfield will be on PlayStation 5?
Yes. I think that's too big of an IP to say no to PS5. I think it's going to be more smaller titles or something like that. They may make another. I can see, honestly, Fallout being an Xbox exclusive. I can see that. Depending on the install base. Man, I think a lot of people were playing in my experience, a lot of people were playing Fallout on Xbox simply because of that the mod support. Like, that was a huge deal for a lot of people. Like, you can play on your Xbox One and still get mod support for it, whereas you couldn't do that on the PS4. And I'm pretty sure you probably can't do that on the PS5. But
you can't.
Oh, you can't, or you can?
No, you can't. You cannot, as far as I know.
All right, yeah. So I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, they still make Fallout, for the PlayStation or whatever, but I think they're going to be privileges are going to be exclusive to Xbox only. That's where I should say.
You think like DLC and certain
like mod support, DLC,
bonus packs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they'll release like exclusive quests and things. Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. They're going to try to make their platforms have the better version of the game. Yeah. I could definitely see that. I just think it's a go ahead.
Like smaller titles, like, I mean, Deathloop is still coming out for both consoles. It still has that exclusivity term and all that.
Yeah, it's going to be exclusive to PS5, but that was a contract I think signed before the deal was done.
Yeah,
so
true. It's just that I don't see them. To be honest, I don't see them using the exclusivity to their fullest potential, because I think they're going to try to maximize profits. So everyone's flipping out, but I think people need to think profits first.
Yeah, which is the right move. I mean, the deal's $7.5 billion. They got to make that money back at some point.
Exactly.
So like, even if it takes 30 years, it's
exactly.
Like...
So we're not going to see exclusives. Like I said, it's going to be smaller games. Like, I don't even know what smaller Bethesda games they can make that would be like exclusive to Xbox. You
I
know what
think
I'm saying?
something like Deathloop, obviously this one's not, but whatever Arcane's next game is, sure, why not?
Yeah, like a
Um,
Dishonored 4 or something like that
yeah,
decides to come
or
out.
Machine Games, whatever they're making,
Yeah,
stuff like that. Some of these ancillary studios that Bethesda's acquired over the years, those I could see being exclusive. Even though
yeah,
they're AAA games, they're not nearly as big as what Bethesda Game Studios makes.
yeah. You're right. I can see someone buying an Xbox for Doom. Like if the next Doom was like an exclusive to Xbox.
I think I will say Doom is one. I don't see that. I think Doom's too big.
That's true. That's true. Maybe
I think it's too
Wolfenstein.
big. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Machine Games. Yeah, they make Wolfenstein. I
Yeah,
think
okay.
Wolfenstein could be an exclusive. I could see that.
Okay.
So because yeah, I mean they know this. The thing is, Microsoft now knows the sales numbers for all these games on every platform. And I'm sure there's some that don't perform that well on PlayStation. Where it's like, we could probably cut that out. Like on the next game, whatever the next game is. So they know that, and they can act on it. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I just don't like how cagey Phil Spencer is being about this. I like him, but this one is really like they're really playing this for all it's worth. Like they just will not definitively say anything. They're like, yeah, some games will be exclusive. Some games, and it could literally be one game.
Well,
Like.
as much as people are tearing this down, like Sony fans
Mhm.
are, I guarantee you 100% without a fucking doubt, if Sony had bought Bethesda, uh, all their games would be exclusive to Sony.
Yeah,
100%.
which would be bad for video games.
Yeah, yes.
It would. It would be very bad for video games. I'm not even gonna lie. I like Sony, but I don't want them to be in control entirely.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
that's
want
not good.
capitalism in video games.
Yeah, we need competition because Nintendo. No offense, but Nintendo's not really competition in that way. Like they aren't making the same kind of product that Sony and Microsoft are.
Yeah, they are.
Like
Yeah.
that they have their own niche. So we need I think Microsoft being at least competitive is important, and this helps them surely. I'm just kind of concerned. I am starting to get a little worried though with them is that they've almost acquired too much, like the number of studios they have under their belt now is like kind of
Yeah.
obnoxious, and it kind of makes me wonder like are they going to be able to manage all of this? Because what I'm scared of is that in 10 years, we're going to see a lot of these places get closed, because
That
they've had
is
one or two bad games in a row.
they can pull the EA because remember EA acquired like 20
Mm-hmm.
different studios,
It was the
popular
same thing.
studios, and they just start
Yep.
closing them down.
Dude, and they were great studios, right? Like
Yep.
Maxis and, Visceral and all these studios, man. Like,
Pandemic, which is hilarious.
yep. Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's something we need to keep our eye on. There haven't been very many successful fruits of these acquisitions yet for Microsoft, but that needs to change soon. So, I mean, come on, we're 4 months in, dude, and we've barely heard anything about games coming out this year for Xbox. There's nothing. They don't have anything. Like, it's like, I mean, admittedly, Sony doesn't have much either, but you think Microsoft would though, because they ended the generation really weakly, whereas Sony ended it extremely strong.
Yeah.
With Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us 2, Spider-Man, God of War, like they had years worth of really good hits. Whereas, what's the last like big Microsoft game that came out?
I,
Last
I
generation.
I think that's what Microsoft needs, man. I think
Yeah.
Microsoft really just needs to do that. They need to. It's going to be rough to say because I remember a couple of months ago, maybe like a year ago, we were all for like developer fucking freedom and shit like that. And I'm still like that. But I think Microsoft gave the developers a little bit too much freedom as far as greenlighting projects because what the fuck is that one game from Rare? Like what?
Rare, yeah.
And then that one game from Ninja Theory that just came out that what was
it's
that
literally
game?
they just shut they're about to shut the servers down for that fucking game after like a year.
It's like
I could have told you that, guys. Like,
let's make Ninja Theory. Like you need to keep Ninja Theory in their place and like no, you guys make really good action combat games. Yes, you have Hellblade on the side, but let's get another good action combat and make that exclusively for Xbox. Or let's try to match something with like Ghost of Tsushima quality. Hey, Rare, like let's try to match something. That's God of War quality. Let's try to match that. Make us something like that.
Or Rare
343
could make like a
Studio.
platformer, dude, like something to match like Sackboy or something,
Yeah, exactly.
something
Like
like that, or yeah,
yeah, or like I mean, I think what's the studio? Obsidian. I think their little RPG game that's what we barely saw. I think that may be a system seller, but we
yep,
don't know yet. That's the
right.
thing. Like we just
We've seen
need
nothing,
yeah,
very little,
exactly. We
right?
need them to push um just good products out, but we need them to also green like really good projects, like not just anything that developers like, hey man, this would be cool. Like as far as that one game I heard is really cool. I think it's called Grounded. Uh
Yes,
that's made by Obsidian. Like I
yep.
heard that game's really good, but it's like, is it really a you know
Should Obsidian be making that
yeah,
game?
exactly. Like, why couldn't
Yeah.
you put that up to another team? Like, where's our days gone? Like Xbox version of that. You know what I'm saying? Like where are these games that we need or that Xbox needs? Like Xbox doesn't have that. Xbox doesn't have a God of War where I can just go back to and be like, man, I'm really
Mhm.
glad I bought me a PS4 for that game. Like, I
Yeah.
can't say that about Xbox. Like, I can barely say that about Halo 5. So it's like,
Right. Right.
or Gears of
Or
War. And I know
Gears. Yeah.
I know
Right.
people who are diehard Gears of War fans, and they will disagree with me. But I haven't really been into a Gears game since Gears 3. That's when
Yeah.
Gears died for me. Like I was just like,
Yep.
this is a great way to end the series.
Well, this is their problem, and I think this is the entirety of their last generation. Is like that generation is going to go down pretty badly, I think, in history, because they basically used that period of time to run their franchises in the ground.
Yeah.
Like Gears should have ended a long time ago. Gears. You're right. I played Gears 3. I played Gears 1, 2, and 3. 3 was it. Just end it there. Why are they still going with these games? It's like, and even Halo. No offense, man, but Halo 3 kind of could have been the end.
No,
Like
it
I
should
don't.
have been the end. You're right. It should
Yeah,
have
we
been.
didn't.
Yeah.
Do we need Halo 4? Do we need Halo 5? I don't
Do
think
we need
so.
Halo
But
Infinite? Like, I don't think
yeah,
so.
right, exactly. As much as these IPs are great, and this is where Sony is running circles around Microsoft, is that they don't do this. They don't do that same thing. The closest they've come in the last 15 years is Uncharted 4. And that's still a really good game.
Yeah.
And even then, that was it. Naughty Dog moved on. They got other IPs, that they're doing, and they don't like run these franchises in the ground. And I know somebody probably would bring up God of War, but it's like, bro, they did run God of War into the ground.
And then that
Actually,
turned out
Ascension,
terribly. Yeah.
yeah, Ascension, dude, that studio was almost done. Like Santa Monica, they could have been closed. Like that's how badly the series was doing, but Sony gave them the chance. They recognized that they were making mistakes with the franchise, and they fucking reinvented it. And here
Yep.
we are. It's basically a different franchise now. Even though I know the continuity's the same and all that, but the game is completely different from what those old
and,
games were.
and so yeah, to piggyback off that, if you don't want to kill the Gears franchise, if you don't want to kill the Halo franchise, and I mean I know they try to make Halo as an RTS and stuff like that
Yeah.
with Halo Wars. I
Yeah.
just don't think they tried as hard because I played the new one and it's okay, but
Yeah.
Ensemble Studios were RTS people. I don't think these
Oh yeah.
people who made Halo
Well,
Wars 2 were
no
RTS.
one's RTS people anymore, sadly.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
it's like that was a dead franchise, but
Mm-hmm.
they have the heroes thing, right? Like almost so Halo Wars plays, I would say like uh when you're describing fucking
Warcraft
Warcraft
3.
3, they have heroes in the field and then that
Okay.
can do certain abilities and stuff like that. And you
Mm-hmm.
can hotkey the abilities and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was thinking, why not just make a fucking Halo or some kind of
MOBA.
Xbox MOBA or something like that? Like you can turn
Dude,
these franchises
that'd be
into
sick.
other things, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like you can make some kind of Halo squad shooter or something like that. That's
Mm-hmm.
not on the side of Halo. You know what I'm saying? Like you can just turn it into a different franchise. How fucking Santa Monica turned God of War, even though technically it's still a third person action game, it's a totally different third person action game. You can do the
Right.
same thing with fucking Gears. You can turn that into a first person shooter. So maybe some kind of squad shooter. I mean, they have different vehicles, so maybe turns like a flight simulator or something like that for like air combat or some shit like that. I
Right.
don't know.
Dogfighting game or
Dogfighting it, yeah. Like
Yep.
you can turn these franchises into other things, especially like Halo. Halo's so expansive. Like
Yep.
they can make some
Yep.
kind of third person action game out of like out of the Arbiter or something like that because he uses swords and shit like that.
Dude, you can make like a turn based strategy game, you know, like
yeah, exactly.
like
That's
a
good.
grand conquest kind of space game, you know, where
Yeah.
like you're in space trying to conquer, like, you know, whatever, you're playing the Covenant or the humans or what have you, you know. So there's a lot of options, man, and I think that's Microsoft's biggest flaw lately, is that their innovation has been very difficult for them. They don't seem to get it quite as, it doesn't fit for them as well as it does for Sony. As much as I've complained about, you know, all their games are the same genre or whatever, it doesn't matter though. They all kind of play differently, even though they are similar genre. They are all unique, you know. Days Gone is the closest probably to not being unique, but I didn't even play that one, so I don't even know if that's true. You know, it's just based on the way it looks, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But to me, Sony though, they don't really miss lately.
They have
And
it.
that's been true for about 10 years, you know. And I mean, there was about a period of like 2014 2015 where they did miss, you know. They had The Order and, you know, some crappier exclusives early in the PS4's life, but, you know, dude, like ever since 2015 though, mid 2015 I'd say, basically since Bloodborne came out, like what was the last Sony exclusive that sucked ass, that was just like a bad game, you know, that wasn't, there isn't one, you know.
I would
Like,
say Knack 2 maybe, but
yeah, okay,
that's
yeah,
pretty
that might be
subjective. A
the
lot of
one.
people still like that game,
Yeah,
but
or
that
Last Guardian, I guess.
yeah, but like all those games were surrounded by other exclusives that came out, and people were like,
Yep.
well, it's kind of made up for it. Like I can't really say that
Right.
for Microsoft.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Right. There's not much to say. There just aren't that many. You know.
yeah, I just think they need to
So
expose their user base. I understand, like, and it is kind of true to a certain extent. Their user base right now is kind of dude bro-ish.
yeah.
And I
Yep.
think they need to expose and grab other people. Like you need to dip into the Sony market and be like, hey, we got this really cool Japanese RPG over here. And you can grab those people, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause a lot of those
Mm-hmm.
people, like they do, like me, for instance, like I play all God of War, Last of Us, Final Fantasy, all that shit. Like that shit kind of is all encompassed to Sony in my eyes, right?
Yep.
So it's like Final Fantasy 15, even though it was on the Xbox, it was weird playing on Xbox. Kingdom Hearts, even though it's on the Xbox,
Yep.
still weird. You need to get
Near
that.
Automata.
Yeah, near
Yeah, that's
Automata,
weird.
right? It's weird.
Yep.
You need to get that weirdness out of there and be like, okay, we got this new cool. Fuck it. Hey, fucking Capcom, bring fucking Breath of Fire over here for exclusivity. People fucking go crazy over that shit. Like, oh
Yeah.
shit,
Yeah.
like, or even they'll put that on Game Pass and be like, put that on Game Pass and
Dude, put the
Xbox.
Breath of Fire games, the old ones, on Game Pass, man. You
Yeah,
know, fucking shit, fuck it. You know,
like they need to. They need. I don't. That's what Xbox need to do. They need to either dig back into their catalog and get old games out. Like, where's my fucking Fable? There are people right now who play. I don't know if you played Fable, but there are people who played Fable and they have a PS4. They've been PS fans, diehard PS fans, and they said if Fable was announced tomorrow, they will buy an Xbox for Fable. Where's our Fable game? And I know they're making one, but it's like,
yeah,
it's been like 10 years since we had a proper Fable game.
yeah.
And it's
That game, when's that game coming out? 2023, 2024? Like, come on, dude. That's like mid-generation. Like,
yeah, exactly.
fuck. You know, like that's my point about Microsoft right now is like they have some things announced that are exciting for people, but they just don't feel like they're imminent, you know? Like, when are they coming? Are they coming this year, next year? Like, that's kind of the issue that Microsoft's looking at right now. And that's my issue with them, is they have no excuse to be in that position because they acquired a lot of these studios years ago now, 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago, you know? That's enough time to make a game, you know? Like, I don't know why we've got nothing from most of them, you know? Like nothing even announced. You know, it's like, okay, we got Hellblade 2 from Ninja Theory, but to your point earlier about them, why are you making this other game when you could just put everybody on Hellblade and get that game out quickly,
Mm-hmm.
more quickly, so
You
it's
know
out.
that game's gonna sell. Like that game's gonna sell.
Right. That game is absolutely going to sell. That's a good exclusive to have, like, so I don't, it's just, I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. I mean, they're not, from what I understand, Sony is outselling them right now, like with the PlayStation 5. And I don't even think it's close. Like the PS5 is outselling the PS4 from when it launched back in 2013. And that's not a good sign for Microsoft because I'm not hearing the same things. Like they're not close in that regard. If that's the case for Sony, so
well, the good thing for Microsoft is they're still hard to find. Like you can't just buy an Xbox One or Xbox Series X. You can't buy it. So that's a good thing. It's just like you said. I think people are just buying it because they can't get a PS4 5. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
right.
It's like you need more.
That's not going to last forever.
Exactly. Because once I think by the end of the year, God forbid, by fucking Christmas, everything's in stock, right? People are not going to go for these for the Xbox Series X. They're not. It's the most powerful console, yes, but why would I get that when I have way more games to play on a PS5? Like,
yeah, and that's the weird part about their strategy about boasting about power is that it's kind of an irrelevant thing with consoles, right? Because what does the power matter if you don't have games that are appealing to play, especially ones that don't leverage the power,
I still think they're stuck in the 360 era when games did play better on the 360.
Right.
And also I still think they're stuck. So they have trauma, right? So it's like a trauma, also like they're stuck, right? On their own victories. They're stuck on their own victories from the Xbox 360 generation because games did objectively play better on the 360. This is not an opinion. This is a fact. Than PS3 until later on the PS3 generation. Then people started like, oh, okay, now I get how the PS3 works. Xbox or PS4 and Xbox One games were better on the PS4. Not only were they better, they were easily developed on the PS4. I remember that being a big news article.
That was a huge selling point of the console for devs. The PS3 is notorious in that it was hard to develop for because it had this weird cell architecture, and it also had really limited resources as well. Half of the platform's memory was dedicated to the OS, so you could only utilize half of the memory on the console. So it was really some of the games that were made on PS3. I kind of marvel at how they were made because I don't know if you know this, but that console, I'm pretty sure only had 500 gigs of memory, like of RAM.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And The Last of Us came out on that thing and ran super well.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's even fucking possible, dude. Like, so the 360 had that advantage that whole generation that it was way easier to develop for. And they kind of squandered it though by the end. Sony really turned things around in that gen, and then they kind of took that momentum and ran with it in the PS4.
Yep.
And here we are in Xbox.
Yeah, I just remember the Xbox One having the ESRAM or ERAM or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be like revolutionary because you only need a small amount of that to do what you need to do in conjunction with regular RAM. And I mean, and everyone was just like, oh my God, the Xbox is just trash because we don't need all like half of the OS is dedicated to the TV and stuff like that, which was, Xbox's fault. So I'm not even gonna fault them on. I mean, I'm not even gonna fault everybody on that because the Xbox fucked up. Like they really did fuck up, and they turned themselves around, but it was just too late. So I think they just have trauma from that. So they're like, oh, you know what? Fuck everything else. We're about to make the best, the biggest, or not the biggest, but like the beefiest console we can ever make, and they did it right. But it's like, where are the games that can support this? Like, where's my Last of Us version of on the Xbox that shows like great cinematography, great gameplay, all this stuff, and it's only on the Xbox. Like, I only get that experience on the Xbox. There isn't that. So,
well, fair enough. I mean, this Bethesda deal will help. So,
we'll
definitely we'll see how that plays out. Okay. we're done with the news. We somehow dragged 2 topics into 40 minutes, Montrell.
Masters.
Man, we're so good at this. So we do want to do a topic though today to kind of fill out the show. So what we came up with before the show, we decided on barrier entry in games. How does it affect games? How they do, how they're perceived, how popular they are, things like that. So I think we're going to start with fighting games, Montreal, because that was the one you brought up, and I think it's a good place to start actually. So go ahead. Do you want to start, or do you want me to explain kind of my feelings on this genre?
Well, I guess I'll start. So I saw a tweet like I don't know, maybe last week or something like that, and someone was complaining about fighting games and why he didn't necessarily say they suck, but he was saying like it sucks that I have to remember all this stuff just to play the fucking game. If I want to play online, there is no, even though the online's ranked and everything like that, it's like there is no regular casual mode. Either I'm playing against people that suck or I'm playing against people that are too good. There is no in between. And as an in between person myself that knows frame data and all this other bullshit and negative and positive frames. And you see, I'm probably going to a lot of people say it's like, whatever, I'm turning off this damn stream right now or the damn podcast right now. But that's what fucking fighting games are. They got these terms called footsies where you gotta, kind of, measure out, the frame data and the hitbox of a kick or a Hadouken or whatever the fuck. Like you have to memorize all this stuff, and then not on top of that, you have to memorize the combos and everything like that nature, and highs and lows and blocks and all this shit like that. And it was like when I was younger and we used to go to the arcade, we used to just play the game, right? Like fighting games were a thing because people used to play them. But then
it became highly technical.
Yeah. And I think it became too technical for his taste. And I think that's where like Smash comes in, right?
Yeah.
And Smash was one of those games where it had a lot of controversy because it did not want to be a fighting game. It didn't.
Yeah.
Sakurai fought against that, in my opinion, because Melee was a mistake. Like, I know we say anime is a mistake, but Melee was legitimately, even though it was like, to me, one of the best Smash games, it was a mistake.
It still is.
Yeah, it still is. Yeah. It was a mistake, and he didn't mean for that. Like, he just didn't mean for that to happen. So when Brawl came out, it turned the genre or Smash community against itself because people were like,
yes, Brawl was a mistake, man.
Yeah, Brawl was a mistake. But people were like, I like Brawl, or people were like, I don't like Brawl. And it got so bad to where people made Project M, which is like a Brawl mod or whatever.
That plays like Melee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then that's
Brawl sucks, man.
Yeah.
I can't stand that game.
Okay.
I think that game was one of the worst. I understand where Sakurai was coming from. I mean, Nintendo traditionally, I don't think they at that point in time, like the idea of esports. I mean, the idea of esports wasn't even really a thing back then, but just the idea of competitive games, though, like where you have tournaments and stuff like that. Nintendo wasn't really in that sphere. They didn't. I don't think they wanted to be either, because I think it went against their image at the time of being very family friendly. But so I understand where Sakurai was coming from, but dude, to me though, I think he went too far in the other direction,
But it's like, who can? I think that's what brings back to the part of the conversation of barrier to entry, because now we got Smash 4 to me, which is probably we classify it now as a fighting game. It is a fighting game, but it's probably one of the only fighting games that I can honestly say that people can legitimately have fun with, and it can be competitive at the same time. Like there can be two different crowds, and those crowds come together, and is just fun because everyone,
Yeah.
the competitive crowd, they're not on edge because they're just playing for fun. And then the other people who are casual, we're all just playing for fun. Like there is no,
Yeah.
I gotta, fucking negative frames and all this shit like that. Like I don't have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
about that.
Wave
I'm
dashing.
yeah,
Well, that
exactly.
that was the thing in
I'm
Smash,
picking
but
up a fucking bob
yeah.
bomb and I'm
Yeah.
throwing it at you and you're flying off the stage.
Or I
Like
throw a Pokeball and fucking Snorlax kills everyone off the screen or some shit.
exactly.
Okay. So I think anybody our age, Montreal's age, we all probably played Smash. I think everybody did. And I think that was always the brilliance of Smash Brothers is that and this is what Sakurai didn't understand when he made Brawl to me, is that he actually made Brawl more complicated than Melee was. Even though Melee was complicated, it wasn't inherent to the mechanics of the game though. You needed to like go on a forum and learn how to do this shit to
Exactly.
make it complicated. The game was smooth and played smooth, whereas Brawl is this clunky fucking mess where characters can fall down and trip and fucking what the fuck, dude. Like, I just want to dodge. If I want to dodge, I want to dodge, bro. There shouldn't be like diminishing returns to a character dodge. Like that's fucking weird,
Yeah.
So that's why Melee was so fucking good, man, because it was easy to learn, hard to master. It was that epitome of that saying. And the game had a great roster of characters at the time. And it felt like the way it controlled it was amazing, dude. The characters controlled so well. This is a 2001 game, one of the first, like, we had a whole generation of 3D games that controlled like ass. And this was one of the first games that was 3D that I ever played where it controlled like a fucking dream. The game was a masterclass in game design, at the time.
Yeah, when you say it like that, yeah, I mean that game was really tight on its controls. I can see
Bro, it's
why.
fucking nuts. It's
Yeah,
nuts.
thinking
Yeah.
about it, I can see, and I spent hours playing that shit. Like,
Me too,
fucking
dude. I would
hours,
literally
man.
make up tournaments
Me too.
to fight. Like I would like create like these like weird rule sets that I would adhere to by myself in my room alone. And like, dude, I was so obsessed with Smash
You
Brothers,
know how
like
crazy
Melee.
I was. I created
Yeah,
like a fucking whole like storylines, like the story of the
yeah,
sword fighters and everything
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah,
Like it
yeah,
was fucking crazy. Like with my
yeah.
tournaments and shit. So yeah,
Hmm.
like that's how. So then you get to a game like Street Fighter, for example, right? So Street
Hmm.
Fighter to me is one of the greatest examples
Yep.
of a game that went casual to technical, and it just can't go back now. Like it's stuck
Yeah.
in that permanent position. Because I remember playing Street Fighter with my family, and we would just like play it, and it was like, oh, cool, we're playing Street Fighter. I say around the early 2000s, Street Fighter 3, that's when it really took off. It's like this is a technical game. It
Yeah.
wasn't there yet because like esports wasn't really a thing, but it was local tournaments and everything like that. Justin
Hmm.
Wong was coming out, and
Yeah.
the famous clip of him with Ken and Chun Li and everything like that. So it's like that. Once that happened, they couldn't go back. And then you had Marvel's Capcom 2. Like that game too was supposed to be like
Mm.
this really cool fighter between Marvel and Capcom, and it was. And I remember I was playing it, and I remember I just so happened to go to like a local scene or whatever, just because people were playing it, and
Yeah.
it was just super fucking technical. And I'm just like, what the fuck is this? Like, I just want to
Yeah.
play the fucking game. Like, I thought it was just cool
Yep.
to play,
Well,
but
there's like all this character swapping, and
yeah,
like you can do moves with the characters in the back line and shit. And like that game was pretty crazy.
yeah, but it was fun when you're just playing it like with your friends. But it was just like it was super technical when you got on the actual competitive scene. But the
Hmm.
problem is, I think a lot of games have went that way. Um, Killer Instinct and stuff like that, like the newer Killer Instincts. I think it was revolutionary as far as like their training room because that was one of the first games, fighting games that was actually exclusive on the Xbox. That it was to me was a system seller, for
Mm.
the
Hmm.
Xbox and for the Xbox One. That had frame data in the training room, like they had frame and hitbox data and all that shit. Like
Mm.
that was the
Okay.
first game, in my opinion, to actually do that, and then other games start following suit with that. So it's like, but then again, there's no casual crowd for that. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to buy, Killer Instinct or Like there's a casual crowd, but it's barely there for Mortal Kombat. I think Mortal Kombat is is carrying its casual crowd off nostalgia. Once that nostalgia dies, Mortal Kombat's going to be in the same boat as Street Fighter.
Dude, so you're getting to a good point here because just a second on Street Fighter 2 though. That game was also a phenomenon. Like, you know, in its time, the 90s, that was Street Fighter's time. You know, like that was, man, that fucking game. I didn't play it very much, to be honest. I was probably too young. But my brother was an absolute Street Fighter like fucking fanatic, and then he transferred that into Marvel vs. Capcom eventually. And but dude, Street Fighter 2 though, to me is like it's like a perfect video game. You know, even though I don't
100%.
play it I didn't play it very much, and I'm not very good at it. Dude, it's so fucking good. The like just the stages, the art, the music, the movement, the control, all of it for a Super NES game is like fucking, it's so good. It's like and I think it's the pinnacle of the series. That's the unfortunate reality with it. Like, and I think the reason it's like that though is because of what you said, because it was a technical fighter, but it had a really fun casual element to it. You know, like casual people played that game, and I mean, I think a lot of this had to do with arcades still being very popular at the time. Because I mean, you couldn't walk into an arcade without there being multiple Street Fighter cabinets. You know, like that game was the arcade game. You know, like that was the one everyone wanted to play. So, but I remember though, Street Fighter 4 when that game came out, and this was around 2007, I think, or 2008, somewhere in that range. I remember when that game came out, and I bought it. Actually,
I did too,
dude. You know, it's weird for me because my trajectory with fighters is weird. But it's one of the last fighting games I've ever bought. Was Street Fighter 4, and I remember buying it and taking it home and playing through it and unlocking a couple characters or whatever. And I was like, kind of sucks. You know, I was like, this isn't fun. You know, and I think what you were just saying is kind of what I'm afraid of for fighting games is that I don't know what future they have because they've designed themselves into a corner because they are technical now. That is the expectation, you know, but barrier to entry on those games is extremely high. And there's a lot more accessible games out there that you can play and have plenty of fun with. It's just, there's so much to learn with fighting games, and there always was, but and this is where I was with it. This is why Smash was so revolutionary to me, was because it was simple, dude. You know, there was a few button presses, you know, and every character had the same button combinations. There was no strain. There was no like, you know, you're fucking up, down, B, left, right, and then the next character's down, left, right, R, fucking left, you know, whatever the fuck. Like every character has different combos in all these other fighting games, and that shit drove me crazy. You know, it was like I felt like I was in school. I was having to fucking like get like flashcards to remember these combos. You know, it's like so that was why Smash I think took off the way it did is because of that simplicity, and I think that's why a lot of people bag it as it not being a fighter, but what they're losing sight of is that there's still skill to being good at Smash Brothers. And I'm sure you were like this as well. I am a testament to that. I kicked the fucking shit out of everyone I played Smash against my entire life into my 20s, you know? Like I would play the game to the point I was beating people so bad. I was winning so many games that people didn't even want to play Smash with me anymore. Like that's where the point I got to with it. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn. My point is the game takes skill. There's a skill gap in the game, and it exists, and it's real, you know. And I played against people that were way better than me, and they kicked the shit out of me, dude. Exactly. Like I couldn't even hit them
because they learned. And it was they learned all the frame data. And
they learned the advanced shit. Right. So that though, I remember I had those experiences, and that's kind of what turned me off of it eventually. Like of Smash is because I haven't really played the last couple Smash Bros. Brawl was really the last one I played a lot. That's unfortunate, but I think a lot of that had to do with me growing up,
Yeah, yeah,
moving away from friends and things like that, and not knowing people who wanted to play it. That's part of it. But I think also part of it though too is it. I think fighting games have an issue is that they're not really rewarding to play. You know, especially when you're on your own, like playing them. There's nothing really. There's no like incentive to play them.
yeah, and
Unless you were really driven to get better at them.
exactly.
What are you playing for?
And this is where like I think I think fighting games thrive. They have a thriving community. Like
Mm-hmm.
people will these fighting games have like really thriving communities where people will meet up and do couch fighting games. Like they're called casuals. That's what they're called. So people will have casuals. It'll usually be on over one person's house, or maybe it's someone's basement, or they may rent out like a
Mm-hmm.
little part of a comic book shop or whatever, and like 20 or 30 people will show up and they'll just run casuals and learn different combination setups and get good at the game. Then they'll host tournaments and stuff like that. um I think but for people who aren't like, I think fighting games fail for people who are like on the outskirts of stuff. So like
Yeah.
say like you, for example, right? You live on the outskirts of Fort Worth. Let's say the nearest casual scene for fighting games, which is true, is in Dallas. I will have to
Yeah.
drive 45 minutes to an hour to get to Dallas just
Yep.
for this casual scene. And that's not bad. But like let's say if somebody lived out in fucking what city is Jet from? I can't think of the name of the city.
Louisville.
No. Wait, where he's originally
Oh,
from.
you mean
Wake,
Lubbock? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Lubbock or
Yeah.
Waco,
Yeah.
right? Let's
Okay.
say if you're way
Yeah.
out there in those cities, you love fighting games, but the nearest scene is 3 hours away. You can't get that casual co-op, so your only option is to learn online, which is not really a good environment because now you have to learn frame delay data, you have to learn all this other
Ugh,
stuff, and it's
yeah.
like that's where, in my opinion, fighting games kind of fail as well. So they're good and they're
That.
bad.
Yeah. It's
Um,
true.
but then you have, not to mention though, you have these games. Because I was thinking about Smash Brothers and then the IP and everything like that, and Mortal Kombat. Fighter Z, Dragon Ball Fighter Z is one of the greatest examples of a game that is just a Dragon Ball fan's like wet dream as far as a fighting game, but the bar to
Yeah.
entry to that game is fucking crazy. Like you
Yeah.
won't be able, you can probably play that game really good offline against the AI because they're fucking
Yeah.
terrible. But when you
Mm-hmm.
go online, you will want to cry because people are going to get you. You're going to be trapped in corners. Like you're going to get fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and I know you're a Dragon Ball fan, but you don't want to touch that game
Yeah.
because of the bar to entry for that game. But that game
Right.
literally has moves ripped out that look exactly like they're from the manga panels of like Dragon Ball. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Like the amount of detail
Yeah.
they put and love they put into these moves and how they look and how flashy they are. Like the team put a lot, Arc Systems put a lot of work into that game. But it's like, and it sold really well, but it's like, there are still a lot of Dragon Ball fans. They didn't even touch a fraction of like,
How do you get me?
exact.
Dude,
How do you get a Budokai fan that's like, yo, play this
bro,
game?
yeah, I'm a Budokai 3 fucking fanatic. I was in love with that game, and I to this day I will play it with somebody if they want to play me. Like I love that game, and I felt like I was really good at that game actually. Like that's one of the only true fighting games I've ever played where I was actually pretty good at
So
it.
what's funny about
Um,
Budokai, and I put Budokai, Ninja Storm, and like Arena Fighter, call them Arena Fighters, and like the same
mhm.
thing. Because you said an interesting thing. You said like you got the same button combination setups, but the characters do different things with that button combination setup.
Yeah,
So like
yeah,
yeah, Mario has over A smash,
yep.
and Link has an over A smash, but they kind of do different. They do the same thing. They get the
They
same
have different animations,
exactly. So you have to
and
learn
they have different reach. Their reach is
exactly,
different with those. You're
exactly.
talking about like frame data and stuff,
Yeah. And
and
that's just like,
hitboxes. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
and you don't even really have to be a fighting game connoisseur to learn that. You learn that a
no,
couple,
it's obvious. You
yeah,
can see Link has a sword. It has a longer reach than Mario's arms. Like,
exactly.
that's obvious.
Yeah. So I feel like the arena fighter games like your Budokais,
Mhm.
even I even say Budokai Tenkaichi,
Yeah,
fucking Ninja Storm, these games sell like crazy. And fighting game people are like, why do these games sell like crazy? They're the same thing. And I was one of those people try to really sit back and think about it. And I'm like, because
Yeah.
there's one button I have to press, one or two buttons.
They're set up like Smash. Yeah, they have
Exactly.
the characters don't have different combinations of moves, you know, like,
Exactly.
or different combos.
I think Ninja Storm is one of the greatest examples of that. They never went like super fight. They did have super fighting games like that. Like they tried to make bonds like that, Naruto bonds, but it really didn't work out. When Ninja Storm came out, everyone was on that because not only did the game look gorgeous, but you can do all these flashy combo moves with like a press of a button. And I'm doing the Rasengan move, and I'm
you can do a Rasengan with like what was it, like triangle and circle or something. Like you don't even have to do anything fancy.
Exactly.
You just do it. You know, that game was more about like chakra management or whatever. You know,
but like people can do these cool moves that they see in the anime, and it's like really animated really well. Because people are mad about Demon Slayer. It has like the same kind of setup as Naruto Ninja Storm, a new Demon Slayer game coming out. It's made by CyberConnect. Animations are gorgeous, everything. But people are like, oh, it's just another arena fighter. And I was like that too when I saw it, and then I thought about it. And that's what this conversation is. The bar to entry to those games, I can play that with you. I can play that with like a pro.
Right.
Is there a pro arena game, person? Not really, because of like chakra management, and that shit's not really balanced. So you just play the game for fun. Like I literally I buy these games and I play them for fun because I can play them on the couch by myself and have tons of fun because I'm playing through the anime. Or I can play
Budokai was like that. Yeah, Budokai 3, Ninja Storm was like that as well.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm with you in that. I think that's a big thing, and I think the fighting game community, they're not a bad community.
No, I'm not shitting on them. I'm just shitting.
No, not at all.
I'm not shitting on anything. I'm just saying, how do we balance that bar to entry to where, we can get casual. Like you want to get casual Call of Duty fans, right? And they can pick up Call of Duty and get 10 kills and feel satisfied. How can we get that same management and keep that fighting game genre alive? Because people, the younger generation are getting into fighting games, like surprisingly, which is crazy to me, but they are, and they love it. And this is why I love the younger generation of gamers, is because they grew up around way more complex games than we did. Like a 5-year-old, like I said last week, can play fucking Fortnite and build shit around me and headshot me and like, ha,
oh my god,
like, ha, I got you.
I'm sure Xander could kill me in fucking Fortnite at this point. You know, like it'd be embarrassing.
Exactly. So I mean, younger people are getting into these games, and maybe they don't need to do that. Maybe I'm just looking at it from an older mindset. But I feel like kind of getting over to another genre, because it has the same kind of setup where you have the same 4 buttons, but each character does this different things. It's MOBAs. And people are wondering if the MOBA genre is going to die. It kind of blew up again because a lot more people now are watching like competitive MOBA games, competitive League, competitive Dota. But it's like, but the characters that are coming out are kind of evolving and doing like weird shit. And it's like,
the design's different.
Yeah, the design is way different from like earlier, and it's evolved into some almost like something else.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's like, in the bar to entry for those games are fucking terrible. Like they're worse than fighting games. You get a tutorial with some fucking AI, and the AI is fucking stupid, and you're like, oh,
they're so bad.
Yeah, this game's gonna be easy, and then you get into your first game and you get fucking destroyed. Like you get destroyed by human opponents.
Circles thrown around.
Yeah, and then not only that too. But not to cut you off. Not only that too, but the community is way more toxic than fighting games. Like fighting games get this rep that we talk shit to each other, but it's like a good shit talking to each other.
Oh, it's like talking shit with your friends, right?
Yeah,
like where like I'm bagging, snakes or something. Where like, oh god, snakes, we carried you that game. What the fuck, bro? It's just in jest. It's fun, And the fighting game community is definitely like that. I actually think they're a pretty wholesome community overall.
I think
the only issue they have is that they do want these games to be a specific way, and I think it's to their own detriment.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, because to me, like fighters, right? Dragon Ball Fighters is I love Dragon Ball. I do. And Dragon Ball fighting games are fucking hella fun. They are. And the idea of it's the perfect concept for a fighting game, like is an anime. it's like the perfect property to put a fighting game in. The thing is with fighters though, I don't even know. Like, does this game have any kind of story mode
it
or any kind of like side modes or anything like that, or
it
is it
does.
just
I
fighting?
haven't played them because I just played online.
Because that's what pulls someone like me in.
Yeah.
Like Budokai 3 had a lot of modes, you know, and the story mode was really in depth in that game. And I know that's not what that's like fighting game. The people who are into fighting games don't care about that shit, probably.
You know
They
what's
just want to,
surprising? A lot of people
but
actually do.
yeah.
And that's where the casualness kind of
Mm-hmm.
left because they stopped putting all these crazy
They
modes
didn't
in
put
it.
effort into that.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I remember
And
playing
that's what loses somebody like me, dude. You know, like
exactly. Because I remember
I
playing
want
Soul
that. I
Calibur
want,
and
yeah.
like there was an adventure mode where you
Soul Calibur 2.
yeah,
Yep.
it was a whole adventure
Yep.
mode and I didn't have to play
Dude, every character had this giant like mode where you
exactly.
there's this huge fucking map and like you went from like spot, it was almost like a tactics game the way you would like choose your next
Exactly.
location
Yep.
you would go to and shit, and you would get like items like weapons from beating those fights, you
Yep.
know, that you could put on the character and they did different things, you know, like they had different statistics and stuff. That shit I'm all about. I know you don't want to take that into competitive, but fuck it, you don't have to though. You can have that
Exactly.
stuff there, like, you know, and that's what like Budokai 3 had. That it had a mode where it was like a mode where your characters leveled up
Mm-hmm.
and they would gain higher stats, and it was completely unbalanced. It was totally unbalanced, but I didn't give a fuck. It was fun as hell, dude. Making Goku like level 99 and maxing out all his fucking stats, and I could literally one shot like Omega Shenron. Dude, that shit was awesome. It was so satisfying, you know? And that's kind of the element that fighting games are missing, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's where modern fighting games really have gotten away from that kind of stuff, and
I agree.
they're painting themselves into a corner where they only have one community, and it's the fighting game community. And that's not a bad thing. They can survive off that. But what the problem they're going to run into, and it's good that younger kids are playing it, but I'm afraid that over time,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to fall away. You know, younger and younger generations, like, they're going to have to get these people into these games somehow, and I don't know how they're going to do it, you know,
So
because they're
one
so
game
complex.
that is actually still doing that, and I think this is why they have so much success.
Mm-hmm.
NetherRealm Studios, which to me is really why the competitive scene is big, but it's not as big as Street Fighter or Marvel vs. Capcom or some or Arc System games, because they have those modes in there and they build on those modes. They have like this little RPG mode and like Injustice 2 and Mortal Kombat. They have all these, they have a really in-depth story mode in Mortal Kombat. Like they built that into the game, but they also knew that, you know, we have a really good fighting game. So they were going to build a really good fighting game system, but we're also going to build everything around it. And I think Mortal Kombat still sells so much is because people, because you remember we keep seeing Mortal Kombat on those fucking like lists, right? That's because casual people are still buying these games, and they have tons of single player content for people who just don't want to go online, but they want to play Scorpion and want to tear somebody's head off. Like, that's why Mortal Kombat X is still selling like that.
I just want to execute cool moves and, like, you know, fucking do the fatalities.
Exactly.
You know, it's like I'm not looking to own some dude on the internet. You know,
exactly.
I don't care. You know?
Exactly. And I think that's why Mortal Kombat's really outselling like Street Fighter and stuff like that, because Street Fighter doesn't understand that. I don't really play Arc System games like that. I know Fighters really doesn't have a mode like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
dude, I want to play Blaze Blue so bad though. That's like the one fighting game I've always wanted to play,
so
but never had the ball.
Never
had the balls to jump into it. But yeah, it looks so good. The animations and everything, man. So okay. Let's leave fighting games aside for a second. Get back to MOBAs.
Yeah.
You brought up MOBAs. So this is a really important one, I think, that that is an interesting genre. MOBAs are in a weird place, right? Because they've only existed for 12 years in as being like an actual game genre, their own game genre.
Yeah.
You know, they've existed for over 20, you know, back in StarCraft with like Aeon of Strife. But they weren't their own genre until 2008 when Riot, you know, released League of Legends. And they've done a great job with League over the years. It does make me wonder what the future is, though, because this is a genre where you have two big players, right? You have League of Legends and you have Dota. And then you have all these other bit players that tried to get in here over the years, Heroes of New Earth, that didn't work out. Heroes of the Storm, that didn't work out. With Blizzard, even though that game's still alive, the game's, basically on its last legs. Yeah. So there isn't really, it seems like there isn't room for anybody else. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think the thing is, though, is that League is like the most accessible a MOBA can be, at least in my opinion, mechanically it is. Because, when you guys played Dota, there was all this weird shit going on in the game that you didn't understand. And it's because the game's like inherently more complicated than League in terms of those mechanics, right? There's like turn radius and there's denying creeps and things like that aren't in League, and they deliberately didn't put those things in League because they wanted the game to be less complex, and that lowers the barrier to entry. However, that doesn't mean the barrier of entry is not there. League's barrier to entry is higher than probably almost any game you can fucking play, because this is my thing about MOBAs. This is why I struggle to play them anymore, because if you don't play them constantly, you're going to get left behind, and like Dota, I keep wanting to play Dota, but I just I sit down and I get in the game and I load up a bot game just to like get a feel for it and get myself warmed up. And I'm like, man, do I want to play against people? Not really, because there's so much I don't know. The character abilities that have changed, the statistics that have changed, the new characters that have come out, the reworked characters that are in the game, the new items that they've added, the talents that they've changed, all this shit, dude. So like it's cascading, right?
Yep.
I remember when I got a friend into Dota. This was a long time ago. I'd probably say 6 or 7 years ago when Dota had first come out. And I really wanted to like get this guy in Dota. I knew he would fucking like the game, and I was right. He's been addicted to that game since I got him into it. He still plays it to this day, dude.
Is it what's his name? Aiden?
Aiden is his name. And he fucking loved Dota, man. I'm glad I got him into it. But I remember when he first started playing it, dude, he struggled for months because the way the game was, I told him like, okay, find a character you like just play a bunch of different characters. Find one that you really like, and that's your character for a while. Learn the game with that character. And the problem with that is that it's hard to play the game that way because the game's not designed for you to play the same character every game.
Yeah,
you can't be a good MOBA player if you only play one character. Because you have to be adaptable. You have to be able to counter your opponent's picks. And but the thing is, he struggled through that period of time. He learned that character, and then he started branching out into other characters that he liked, But that's the barrier to entry. I'm talking months. It took him months to get to the point where he was comfortable playing, say, 5 to 10 characters, Like, I'd say 6 months or so. And that's because your first part of the game, the first layer that you learn is the basics, right? How to control the character, where to click, when to click, like how to do last hits, how to make money, how to navigate your lane, right? How to fight against an enemy player within your lane.
I'm just thinking
that's
about
the basics.
How the fuck do I learn that shit? That's crazy.
That's the basics of the game. But then it's more complicated than that, though. You can't just do that and win the game, Like, that's what a new player is going to do, though. But then the next layer after that is paying attention to the mini-map, seeing how the enemy team is moving, how your team is moving, and then moving yourself in such a way where you're helping your team out in defeating the enemy team, and taking objectives and things like that.
Yeah.
That's the next layer of the game. But throughout that, too, you have to understand item builds, how to build your items, what timings you need to have certain items by in order to be, at the highest level of advantage you can be at. But also doing all these things at the same time while maintaining your gold income so that you're not falling behind the enemy team. That's another layer of the game. Then there's the next layer where it's like you have to understand how certain characters interact with each other and those abilities interact with each other. And then you have to understand counters and things like that, character counters. Dude, it's layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. It doesn't end there. It keeps going. I can keep going,
He can. But he can really keep going. It's crazy.
But that's the problem with the genre. I am amazed they're as popular as they are because the barrier to entry is fucking nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Like we were talking about Neo 2, right? That game has a really high barrier to entry, and this is why Neo is not as popular as Dark Souls, because Dark Souls, it's funny to say this, but Dark Souls is actually accessible
It is.
compared to
It is.
Neo. It is. The game's controls are a lot more simple in terms of movement. You don't move as fast, and enemies don't move as fast, and they don't attack as fast. So the game's simpler in terms of learning it. Whereas Neo is this fucking fast-paced action game. But it's not only is it a fast-paced action game, you've got character statistics for leveling up. You've got equipment that all has its own statistics. You have equipment sets. Then you have the skill trees that you got to learn. You have ninjutsu, onyo magic. It's fucking nuts. There's 11 different weapons. It's bonkers, okay? The game's barrier to entry is huge, and it sucks because I think it's one of the best games I've ever played. Straight up, I'm like not even kidding when I say that.
Mhm.
Like, it really is impeccably designed how tight all these systems fit together. You know, the game is insanely balanced, you know, but MOBAs have the same problem though, is that there's so many systems layered on top of each other that I never will ever recommend a MOBA to anybody, because that you're going down a road that I don't know is worth it.
So
You know?
yes, that is actually a good like jumping off point, because like my ex was like, I want to learn video games, and you play League of Legends a lot, and I've been watching, League of Legends streams, and I think it's pretty fun. Can you teach me how to play the game? I immediately told her no, and she got mad.
Yeah.
But I told her no because I cannot teach you how to play this game, and the reason I cannot teach you how to play this game because I play the game a certain way. You may want to play a support role. The support,
I didn't even mention that. Yeah, there's multiple roles on the team.
There's multiple roles on the team, and they each fundamentally play different.
Completely different games.
Your whole mindset is different from a jungler to a support to a support role. And I told her that. I'm like, she's like, yeah, because I might want to like, help the person out. So I'm like, you want to help the person out, you're going to be a support. I don't do support. I can't help you out there. I'm a jungler. And
but support's the worst role for a new player to choose.
It is.
Because it's the most complicated.
A lot of people don't know that, but a lot of people, newer people gravitate towards support. Support gets a lot of, that's a whole different conversation. But, so like jungler and support, I told her like are the worst roles you can play. I'm like, hey, maybe you should play like an ADC, because you have a support and they can kind of teach you the way, and I can kind of teach
start
you
with a carry,
right. But I told her like at the end of the day though, like there's only so much I can teach you. Like even if you just want to have fun, you have to learn the basics of the game. And when I'm talking about basics, I'm talking about 3rd, 4th level basics, like hours upon hours. I'm like, oh, I get it now.
Where the runes spawn, when you should go get the runes, when they spawn, when do creeps spawn, how do you stack creep camps, on top of each other? I
don't know about Dota, but for League of Legends, like, oh, what's my rune setup before the game even fucking starts? Like, I gotta set up this rune page and put different runes here. I gotta pick summoner spells for my characters before the game.
Dota doesn't have that, but
before the game even starts, I have to do this stuff. So I have to set up my character for the way I want to play them when they get inside the game, because then I can set them up a different way, and they can play a completely different way when they get inside the game. And then I got to memorize these item sets. So the bar to entry is just, and there's like a ton of items, by the way. And then you have to know which items synergize with what person. And it's just
with what character you're playing and the teammates you're playing with.
Exactly.
And
it's like it's the bar to entry for MOBAs is fucking insane. And you're right. I don't even know. You know how I got into MOBAs? Because I downloaded a MOBA on my phone, and I'm like, oh man, this is pretty fun. I might want to play a MOBA. And everyone was like, yo, play League of Legends before you get into Dota, because Dota is gonna fucking kill you, bro. And I'm like, I was like, okay.
I love it. Oh, that's awesome. I'm a degenerate. I played Dota back when it was on Warcraft 3, like 17 or 18 years ago.
Okay.
So I've actually 19 years ago at this point. I have long been in the MOBA realm, and when it became a genre, it was one of the funniest things because the game industry didn't know how to react. Whereas me, I've been playing these games for years, and I'm like, bruh, I'm all in. League of Legends, let's fucking go, dude. Like, it's got its own fucking game now, so it was a really obvious thing to me that it was going to happen sometime, because these games Like Dota within Warcraft 3 was one of the most complex. It was more complicated than Warcraft 3 was.
Yeah.
You know, like it was fucking nuts.
So my and then my point is, like, say like if you're a new player too, right? Like you really have to be dedicated to the game. If you just want to have fun with the game, become a casual person, probably rank up and climb to gold, silver, or gold, platinum, or whatever the fuck. You really have to learn the game. But the problem is with that too, right? I feel so bad for people in like 2008, 2009, 2012 when Dota came out. I feel really bad for these people because there was not. I mean, I'm pretty sure YouTube had a slew of information, but back then probably not as much. Like now, there's a whole genre of YouTube dedicated to MOBAs.
You know, you say this. You say this. I actually feel bad for people now because the thing is, back then, none of us knew anything.
Oh, that's true. So you had to figure shit out.
Right. And people were a lot more lenient back then because there were no resources. So when League came out, we were all. The thing is, there were a lot of us that were experienced mobile players. We had played Dota, right? We knew the basics of the game. So, but the nuance of the game was all new to us, though. The characters, the abilities, and all that shit. That was all new. So that was the interesting part about it, is that it was kind of the Wild West. You know, it was like we were all just kind of figuring it out, you know, as we were playing it. And the same thing happened with Dota in 2012. When that game first came out, it was, I mean, there were so many players. The game was free on Steam, dude. Like, there were so many people playing that didn't even know what a mobile was, you know? So it was like you were playing with people who had no idea what they were doing,
yeah,
you know?
And that's interesting, too. So, like, with that, I came in later. Like I came in like 2016 when I started playing League of Legends. But I watched videos from people who used to do like League of Legends content and stuff like that. And they always talk about how fun League of Legends was back in the day. I get four of my buddies on, and we just hop on, we play. And they said the same thing we did now. It's like, so the community is so toxic. It's so serious because maybe because there is so much resources, there's no excuse for you not to know. But the thing is, like, there is an excuse. It's a fucking video game.
I don't want to like watch YouTube videos for 30 hours like I'm trying to get a certification from Microsoft.
God forbid,
you know, like,
right? The client doesn't even help you find resources.
I know.
I don't know about Dota, but fucking League of Legends, their client
totally right.
barely helps you find resources. You have to go to third-party stuff. And I saw a Reddit post about this recently, how they have no resources built inside the client. And it's fucking crazy. I have to go to third-party stuff to find this shit out.
It is pretty nuts. Dota's a little better, but not much.
Yeah.
Last time I went into it, there's still not much there, man.
Exactly. And
it's pretty nuts.
But like, I just remember people saying they had fun with League of Legends, and I'm pretty sure Dota was the same way, where you had these little crazy zany modes and everything like that, you know, 5 people can jump into and have fun. And like, I just discovered ARAM, which is all random, all mid, and they give you 5 random champions, and you're playing on one lane, and you all just go nuts at each other, and it's fucking fun. And I was like, oh my god, me and my friends play it now.
It's just constant team fighting.
Yeah, it's just constant team fighting. It's so fucking fun. We're not taking it seriously. It's just hilariously fun. And
Dota's got modes like that too, man. Like, you know, obviously it had the old classics, all pick, all random, you know, but there's a mode in there that's called ability draft, all random ability draft, where everyone gets a random character and they get their abilities all taken away from them when you get the character, and then those abilities are put in a pool where you draft them like fantasy draft style. And you basically make these abominations where you have like a caster using like carry passives and shit. Like, it's so fun though. It's such a funny mode where like somebody's like, you get these people who like have a character and they're trying to get all the carry passes, but they have no active abilities. So they're just they literally just run around and auto attack people. That's all they do. It's like, you know, it's like, you know, you thought that was a good idea, but you know, no, it probably wasn't.
But like, from what I don't know about Dota, but like League of Legends kind of steered away from that. They do have ARAM, but it's like sometimes they randomize the modes and stuff like that. And then it's like,
which is unfortunate.
Yeah, which is because they focus so much on just Summoner's Rift, which is just basic League of Legends. And I just remember watching YouTube videos about people saying like, oh man, like I remember when League of Legends was so fun, and you know, me and my friends who just jump on there and go to norms and just have fun. Because now even norms is like super competitive. It's like I can't even just learn a champ. Like I would literally have to type into chat, first time playing this champion, please don't flame. And people will be okay, like this is his first time, he's gonna fuck up or whatever. But God forbid I forget to do that. Lord have mercy. Make sure you turn off your chat because you're gonna get flamed to oblivion. Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest barriers, like to entry is for MOBAs is just the community. I unfortunately when I went to Dota, I didn't have that experience because people were like, "Hey, are you guys new?" Because
it was so funny. It was so funny. You and Jet were getting rocked, man. They're like, "Hey, you guys new," and everybody was so wholesome. It was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. I was like, the enemy team like felt bad. It was like, what the fuck, man? But that's always been my issue though, is like getting back into Dota, is I'm scared to get in because I don't want to mute the chat. I really don't, because it's like it's against what you're supposed to do. You need to communicate with your team, and if you mute the chat, you can't do that,
Yeah.
But it's like that toxicity though is just like it's always looming over you, and I'm always afraid to get in, So I got to get over it. I really do want to get back and play it, but it's just I tried to get you and Jed into it, and you guys are league degenerates. Boys. So yeah, you're league degenerates, and I understand. They're like trying to learn two of them. There's really no point in it. So I get it. It is what it is. But it's the same thing for me though. Like that's the thing is like I am a Dota boy. Yeah. I've always pretty much been a Dota boy, except for like a few years stint with League. And
and that's another thing too, right? Like even the bar to entry for me for Dota, I've been playing MOBA for about 4 years now, and Dota is like, I don't want to say completely different, but there's a different set of rules. They're the same genre, but there's a different set of rules I have to go by. So like
different rules, different characters, the map's different, exactly. The objectives are different. It's the only thing you can carry over is the basics, like clicking, and things like that. So it's and you're like understanding of how to that you how to take towers and things like that.
And that's why it's so interesting, like that Paragon and like Smite were becoming popular. I mean, they're third person MOBAs, but it's like they still follow the same rule sets as far as like towers and all that stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, because the bar to entry is on those games are to me crazy too. Like I'm just like, what the fuck? Like this is not League of Legends. This is fucking crazy to me. So I don't know, man.
Well, they're different because they're third person, right? So they have different. The basics don't even apply in those games.
Exactly.
It's like you're learning a whole new skill set. So I think that is interesting. Yeah, Smite. I forgot about Smite actually when we were talking about this because that game is still pretty popular. But I think the I don't know. So okay, obviously the barrier to entry to these games is high, right? But I think this is why the industry. That's why I think MOBAs are amazing because I don't understand how they've penetrated the way they have, given how complex they are and how big the barrier to entry is. Because Smite's pretty big too. That game's fairly popular as well, and Dota and League are going strong, man. They're still growing. I don't really think they're like. I think League's stagnated a little bit, but even for them to stagnate, they're still one of the biggest games in the world. So it's not like it's that big of a deal,
And it's just insane to me because like I remember 4 or 5 years ago. So actually, you know what? It's been about 5 years since I've been playing League because I started in 2016. So yeah, about 2016, or no, not actually 2015, rather. I'm sorry, 2015. So it'll be about 6 years, 7 years, 6 years. But anyway, I remember I was at work and at my old job way back when I was back in Detroit, and I worked for AT&T. So there are a lot of people who were still there who were there for about 30, 40 years, 20 years, 15 years because they came from like Ameritech and Bell and Southwestern Bell. I don't know if you guys remember that. You might be too young to remember those phone companies. But I was talking to this one guy, and he saw me watch, or he was watching me watch fucking League of Legends, like the competitive thing or whatever. I was watching it or whatever. And he was like, "What's this?" And I'm like, "League of Legends." And he's like, "Oh, that looks interesting." And he said one day he just went home, he ate dinner, cracked open a beer, and he watched it, and he was like intrigued by it. He's like, "I don't want to play it, but I'm like super intrigued by
Yeah.
Like, cause he was watching the actual competitive game, so the commentators going, the crowd was going crazy, and he was like into it. And he was like, yeah,
yeah, it's like sports.
yeah,
It's very close to that.
and that was just like amazing to me because he doesn't furthest thing from like playing these type of games. Farthest thing, right? He may play Call of Duty every once in a while, but it's like, what is it about these games? Even though the barrier to entry is so high, that they're so fun to watch. Like fighting games are the same way, right? Like we can watch a fighting game and we understand what's going on, but we can never execute what the
We
fuck.
can't execute it, right?
But we understand
I
like
mean,
how hard that move is to do, right?
yeah. It's similar to watching sports, man. Like I can't do what Tom Brady does. I know what he's doing though.
Yeah.
I know he's changing the play. I don't know how he's doing it or like what, the complexities of it. I know what he's doing though. So I think it's similar to that. And I think that's where I think MOBAs will never die because of that. I think that element to it is still nascent and will grow tremendously in the future. Is that I think League and Dota literally will become sports in the same way the NFL, the NHL, the NBA is. Like they will have their own leagues that are covered by major sports networks because that's how complicated and fun to watch they are. Watching Dota is a wonderful experience. It's so fun to see some of the plays that these guys make. It's bonkers, dude.
But the barrier to entry is not like football or basketball. Like I can start playing basketball when I'm 5, you know what I'm saying, and just keep going.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know what? I'm gonna take that back. Maybe a 5-year-old can jump into League and play it because they can fucking play Fortnite. And that game's complicated as shit. So maybe I have to give credit to the newer generation. I mean, there are fucking babies on fucking tablets now. They're just like, I know how to go to YouTube already, bro. I'm only 2 years old.
Yeah. I'm a Twitch streamer. What are you doing with your life? I'm 2. Well, so I want to ask you one. I want to kind of bring up one more topic though before we go here.
Okay.
Is that we've been talking about fighting games and MOBAs a lot, but what about the rest of the industry? Because I think it's interesting how barrier to entry I think is probably one of the core design tenets any game can really without even saying it. Like they don't even know they're really building their game around it, but they are. I'm sure they think about it, but I'm thinking about like Sony's games, right? They're some of the most popular, and Nintendo's actually, or even more so in this regard, right? Like Mario Kart, Animal Crossing, Smash Brothers. These games, like they are so popular because their barrier to entry is almost zero. Like they're easy to learn. It's really obvious what you're supposed to do. They're designed like impeccably, in that regard. And I think the industry has grown a lot in this way, where if you go back and look at like Super NES, dude, and oh, God forbid, even like N64, man, like these games, you like put them in front of people and it's like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Like, what the fuck is even going on in the screen, Like, and Super NES games were pretty bad about this too. Like, I think about like a fucking Ogre Battle, like, Ogre Battle, right? The Super NES one.
Yeah.
Where it's like this live action strategy game, where you have to like give units commands and like take over bases and shit. The game doesn't teach you anything, but it's like when you get into it, you start really understanding the game. But it's like that kind of shit though is why I think certain series live and die. Ogre Battle's a dead IP, and it shouldn't be, but it is because those games did not explain how to play them, Like in Tactics Ogre is very similar, in that regard, or even Final Fantasy Tactics, like these IPs are not that popular, not only because of what they are, but it's because they're hard to explain, and I think this is why the industry has gone in such a direction where third person, cinematic games are really where things have gone because they're easy to get into,
So I think one of the greatest games, not the greatest games, but one of the greatest examples of barter entry popularizing a game, and I think you may agree with this, is Monster Hunter. So Monster Hunter,
okay.
If you guys didn't know, we played Monster Hunter. I'll just give you a brief history. It came out on the PS2. If you play Monster Hunter 1, or even if you play Monster Hunter on the PSP, Uh, I recall I was even annoyed with Monster on the PSP because it gave me too many instructions. Like the tutorial, like I was just like, I already know how to play the game, bro, and I thought that was slow. But when I look back on how actually bad that tutorial was, like the game barely taught you how to play it on like Monster Hunter Freedom or Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, things of that nature. Monster Hunter 1, bro, they barely taught you. They were like, oh, this is how you swing the weapon. This is how you do this. This is how you gather meat. This is how you
Go
cook
hunt
the
a
meat.
Jaggy,
Go
bitch.
hunt the Jaggy. And then they throw a Yayan Kutku at you, and you're like, oh shit. Like this is the monster that is your this is the barrier monster for you. Like this is what you're going to
Or
face.
Plesioth. Here we go, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
You ready for those hitboxes?
Oh my god, fucking Plessio. But that game had a even though it had a hard barrier to entry, it had a niche market, right? And we were that niche market because people were like, oh, I love Monster Hunter. Like we already knew how to play the game when we bought the game, right? And I just remember playing each Monster Hunter and each tutorial getting longer and longer and longer until we got to World, to where the first 3 missions are to like the first 3 stars, I think, are missions or like tutorials.
Yep, tutorial missions.
And they were slow for us because we already knew how to play the game. But then I sat back and thought about it, and I'm like, this game is super popular because it taught people how to play the game properly.
Yeah.
And that bar to entry was tore down because the barrier to entry rather was tore down because it taught the people how to play the game properly. So once they learn how to play the game properly, they're like, oh, this is how you do it. Not only that, it's simplified. Even though there's massive farming in that game, it's not near people who play World First. Jesus Christ, y'all have it so easy. Imagine hunting.
Yeah, you gotta hunt a monster like twice or like 3 times to get
Imagine
like a full
hunting a
armor set.
freaking Arathlos like 200 times to get 1 ruby. I did it.
Bruh. Oh my god, I did it. I did it as well. I've served my time, I've done it as well. Anybody that played any of the old ones know what we're talking about. So,
like they even simplified that, right? And I think that game is a great example of like making a barrier to entry fathomable for people. It didn't necessarily make the game harder. You made it easier for people to get into.
Isn't that funny though? Because it's you know what's interesting about that design choice, right? Is that people complain that you're making the game easier. We did it with Monster Hunter World.
We did.
We don't like that game as much because it is a little easier than the old Monster Hunters. And Dark Souls is another example where people talk about easy mode or whatever in those games, and it's like they don't want, people who are hardcore don't want it because they, obviously it's gatekeeping and all that, but they want the game to retain its, feeling that they have for it, and it's kind of interesting that as these games are designed, they kind of like go away from what got them a fan base in the first place to kind of grab another fan base. They lower that barrier to entry to get more people to play it.
So what's interesting about Dark Souls, I think Dark Souls tutorial level, I don't know about Demon Souls. I gotta play it again. I can't remember. But Dark Souls, the tutorial level teaches you a lot, especially like in Dark Souls 2 and 3. Teaches you a lot.
Demon Souls barely has a tutorial. It's literally, dude, you can walk past the tutorial without even knowing it, because the tutorial is like the little scar messages on the ground.
Yeah.
That's the tutorial, and like if you don't click on them, well, you're not learning shit.
Exactly. And I think they took that design philosophy from like Mega Man X. Mega Man X doesn't have a tutorial. It teaches you how to play the game by playing the game.
Well, it puts you in situations where you're forced to learn.
Exactly. I think that's how Dark Souls does it. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's a good barrier to entry because a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people do like that, and a lot of people don't like that. I think that's just a thing. I think Monster Hunter is different because it's not super complicated. Like once you understand the basis of Monster Hunter, it's just you got to get that click. Once people get the click, and it's hard to explain to people without explaining it, and then I'm not going to be able to explain it. But you playing Monster Hunter, for me, it happened in Monster Hunter 1. It clicked for me after like 10 hours, 15 hours of gameplay trying to beat this fucking Yayan Kutku and or Yan Kutku. And I'm like, oh, this is how I do it now. This is how I play this game. This is the way the game is supposed to be played. I think Monster Hunter World actually showed people that click. And by the time they got to the 4th star, they're like, "Oh, okay, I get how this game works now. It's
Mm-hmm.
clicking for me." Um,
Yeah.
the problem with Monster Hunter World was like the late game was just fucking with the clutch claw and shit. Like that was crazy. But before that, I think the game was actually pretty good. Like it was, like you said, it was kind of easy, but it was like a hard easy. Like it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's easy to learn. Well, not really easy to learn, but it's okay to learn, but difficult to master. Because once you start getting to the master ranks and the arch tempered monsters and they one shotting you and stuff like that, you gotta learn. You really gotta like understand the game by the time you get to that point. Um, but yeah, Monster Hunter is a great example of that, where teaching people how to play your game properly, whether it be for the veterans, it's slow for us, but for the people who don't know how to play the game, it was massive for them. So now Monster Hunter is like a really popular game now because everybody knows what Monster Hunter is, and they just world was so
Mm-hmm.
good for them. They're like, oh my god, this is not even the first game in the series. This isn't.
It was exactly what the series needed.
Yeah. So
Even if we didn't like it, it
exactly,
was
because
what
we
mattered
already
most.
knew how to play it, and I think that was the greatest example of like, we know you guys know how to play it. This is not for you. This early part is not for you. Just grind through it, and then y'all get what y'all want. Y'all get y'all just desserts after that.
Mm-hmm.
There should have been a mode or an option to be like, hey, have you played previous Monster Hunters? Yes. Okay.
Skip it.
Skip it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that, yeah. But the thing is though, it's a new game. There are always new mechanics in Monster Hunter games,
Yeah.
so you kind of can't skip them.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
have to pay. Like, with Rise, right? There's gonna be a tutorial that explains how to do the monster mounting and all that shit. And we're gonna have to learn how to do that,
Yeah.
because the game's different in using your wire bug or whatever the hell it's called. So yeah, it's interesting because, yeah, that correlation there. Like, I think lower barrier to entry. I think the rule is a lower barrier to entry is more likely to help your game succeed.
Yeah.
It's not always true. MOBAs are an exception to that rule for sure,
Yeah.
and there are other games as well. But I do expect the industry to kind of continue going in that direction, though.
I kind of want to
More
say
than
that. I think
likely.
that's why Halo died. I think Halo became too technical for its good, and then it tried to go back on itself.
Well, you know what's funny about that, right? A good example of that, right, is that the new Halo has a sprint. Halo never had sprint.
Yeah.
It's never had sprint. There was no there was I don't think any of the Halo games before this one you could sprint. So, like, that getting added though brought all these people out of the woodwork. Like, oh, why you adding sprint to Halo? That's not what Halo is. It's like,
The
it's
community
like,
has.
oh, you're not actually moving faster. You just think you are. It's like, okay, fine, dude, whatever. Like, does it really matter though? It's like, they're I like, that's not necessarily an example of lowering barrier to entry, but like, if that makes the game less intimidating to people, just that mechanic being there, why not add it?
Yeah.
You know?
No, I agree with you. I think, especially like Halo Reach, a lot of people have an affinity for that game because it was a perfect balance of like, I didn't see it then because I fucking hated Halo Reach online competitively. It was fucking terrible for me. But I didn't see
Mhm.
it then. But they made these armor powers for people just to have fun with. Like, they just really wanted to bring that sandbox feel back. They didn't want the 4v4 thing. That's what Bungie didn't want, you know. And then Halo 4 kind of leaned into that, and then Halo 5 kind of went back to the MLG style of like Halo 2 and stuff like that. Really technical, and yeah, we
Mhm.
got the sprint, but it's like it's Halo 2, but better in my opinion. Halo 5 is, as far as multiplayer wise. But they got the other modes in there and everything like that. The problem with Halo 5 was there is no couch co-op. So,
Yeah.
that
Yep.
kind of took a lot of the fluff out of that game. Um, so but I mean, I think Halo was one of those games where the barrier to entry was really fun. I remember Halo 1 being fun, Halo 2 being fun.
2. Yeah, 2 was fucking crazy fun.
But then
Dual wielding SMGs.
yep. And then like 3, it was there, but then when you played online and you got that rank system and it started to go higher and higher, it started getting unfun because people started four-shotting you. Like, they know how to hit headshot you instantaneously. So
Yep.
it was really like a weird balance. And then they start having like, other stuff too. Um But I don't know, like, yeah, I think I guess to wrap up the conversation, like especially with Sony games like The Last of Us, even Ghost of Tsushima, they have these modes where uh I don't want to say the game practically plays itself, but like somebody can play these games and like I don't feel like playing Neo 2 right now. I just want to play a fucking game and chill back, bro. That's it. I don't feel like doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And Nintendo
Yeah.
games are like
Right.
that too. Like a lot of Nintendo games, Animal Crossing, Pokemon, those games I play, Zelda. Like, even though I complain about Zelda like combat system, I want it to be more complex. I kind of reneged on that because my ex played it and she doesn't play video games. She fucking loves Breath of the Wild. It's like
Mm-hmm.
crazy,
Yeah.
you know?
It worked.
It
Right.
worked, yeah. So it's like,
Right. That game made. You know, it's funny actually. That's a good example. Like that's definitely the game that kind of made Zelda more accessible. In weirdly, like, because the game's huge. Like, it's a large
yeah,
game, and that in and of itself could be intimidating, but they kind of immediately give you freedom, and that is accessible, in any game, which is why I think open world games have become so popular. Is like the concept of an open world is inherently accessible, you know,
yeah,
because you have the freedom to go where you want, and that's appealing. That's appealing to people. So yeah,
yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
I don't
It's a
know.
good
It was a
conversation,
good
Mark.
conversation. So I don't know if I don't know if I'm for or against casualness, but it's needed. It's definitely
Oh, it's definitely
yes,
needed. I don't want every game to be like Neo 2. Neo 2 is exhausting. It really is. I am obsessed with it right now, but it is an exhausting game.
yeah.
Like just thinking about it is like, oh God, it's like, oh man, where am I going with my character build?
Yeah, just to give y'all an
Um,
example, I one day I didn't even play the fucking game. I was just getting my builds right and restarting
dude, that's what I
everything.
did last night. Yeah. I spent like 3 hours just like looking at the skill trees, and like I did like a few missions, but I was doing like dojo training and stuff. I was just doing like character maintenance basically. Like I felt like I was playing an MMO, you know? Like I wasn't like playing the game really. It was like, I had like 30 skill points that I hadn't spent because me and my brother kind of go at a breakneck pace. So I don't have time to like really examine things.
Yeah,
So I was like, man, dude, it took me hours to figure it out what I wanted to do. So yeah, it can be good and bad. It's a double-edged sword. I don't think every game needs to be complicated. I also don't want every game to be easy and like super accessible either. Like I think there's a place for everything. That's why I think that's why the argument against like Dark Souls and Sekiro about, adding easy mode to these games, that's why I don't think the argument even really makes sense, because there are dozens and hundreds and thousands of games,
hmm
it's like, why does this one specific game have to be the exact way you want it, because it's like, okay, I know what people are saying is like, whoa, what's wrong with making a game more accessible to people and opening it up so more people feel comfortable playing it? Is, well, maybe the designers don't care. They don't care that you aren't comfortable playing with it. They're like, go play someone else's fucking game. It's like, there's nothing wrong with that. That, because if we made every game accessible, I think we would get to a point where difficulty wouldn't even exist
well, we
anymore.
did get to that point. I remember.
Yeah,
I remember.
yeah. PS3 generation was
Yeah,
bad
I was
with
just about
that,
to say that the
man. It
PS3,
Yeah,
Xbox
it
360
was.
generation was fucking terrible. I remember that because
Yeah.
that's when the whole difficulty thing came out, and that's when Dark Souls actually came out too. And everyone was like, "Oh my god, it's such a breath of fresh air!" Because
We hadn't had that in years. Yeah.
exactly. And that's why the Dark Souls, popularity just took the fuck off because every game was trying to be super accessible. Like I said, which is not a bad thing, but too much of one thing can, spoil everything. And it kind of did. I
Right.
just remember everyone was, especially first person shooters, everybody was trying to be Call of Duty. And that bar to entry for Call of Duty was like really low. So,
Well, dude, accessibility killed the MMO genre,
oh yeah.
Like World of Warcraft is it's the perfect example of why you don't want to go too far down that road, because that game was hyper accessible in a genre that traditionally was not, and then it became popular, and then everyone started doing it. They all tried to make their MMOs accessible, and there was not enough room for all of them, and they're all dead now.
hmm
World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14 are it. They're the only ones left, because they were the best at it.
Yep.
you know and that ultimately killed the MMO genre though, because no one makes MMOs anymore. Like no one does. It's taking like a team with the team making Paragon that is like they're literally being funded by like, you know, angel investors, people like we don't know who they are. They're literally giving the studio money to make this fucking game. You know, it's like that's what it takes to make an MMO now. Like a publisher's not going to do that. Like EA is not going to greenlight an MMO like a Plants vs Zombies MMO. They're not going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, they
Why would they're
barely
not going to do that?
supporting fucking Sator, so
Right.
um,
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. You know, so that's kind of the thing about accessibility is that it's a dangerous road is that it can like publishers can't be trusted with this shit. You know, if something is proven to work, they will try to copy it,
mhm.
you know. And I think I like the niche that From has with their games, and I think they do it extremely well. And adding variables to it that they don't want to add, I think is going to risk diluting their vision, you know,
Yeah,
in a bad way.
but I think you get
So
games like Ghost of Tsushima, which is a really good balance of
yeah,
like difficulty, and because when you turn the difficulty down, the game doesn't feel as satisfying to play. But then when you turn it
yeah,
up, the game feels really satisfying. But then for someone who doesn't want
hmm
to do all that, the game feels satisfying to play at the normal mode, and they get to play
yeah.
the full experience. And
God of War is like that too.
yeah, and I'm glad developers actually got away from tying uh trophies around difficulty. You know,
That's a very good thing.
yeah,
I hate that shit.
um,
I think it sucks.
yeah, it does suck because to be honest with you, I only beat Mass Effect on hardcore. I never went insanity mode because it's just so fucking crazy. Like I cannot beat Mass Effect on insanity, and my friend
I tried
has
it.
beat
It
it
was
on
bad.
insanity, and I'm like, you're crazy because I can't do it, bro. Like that
Hmm
game is fucking crazy on hard. I mean, on fucking insanity mode. But uh, yeah, I mean, I don't know where to go from there, but I just think there should be a balance. And
Yeah.
we identified games that have balance and then games that just don't have this weird dichotomy of like barrier to entry, but somehow still popular, which is MOBAs. And then a genre, which is defining game genre, which it doesn't really need a barrier to entry. It needs more accessibility. And I think that's the
hmm
the point of this conversation wasn't really a barrier to entry, it's more accessibility, because I'm pretty sure you would buy fighters if it had modes like Tenkaichi or Budokai.
Right, but I don't want that to come at the expense of the core game.
It,
That's my thing. I'm not.
I
I
don't
don't
think
want
so
that.
though. I don't think that would come at the expense of the core game.
I don't
I don't think
either.
they don't focus it anymore because they're focused so much on the
The
esports
hardcore.
side, or yeah, the hardcore,
Yeah.
the esports side of things. Um, which I thank Mortal Kombat for, because Mortal Kombat listens to their fans, but they also don't listen just to the fighting game community fans. They listen to like people
hmm
who just been fans of Mortal Kombat, love the lore, and they build these really intricate story modes and other modes around just single player experiences. That really needs to just come back to fighting games, and I think other games in general, Sony games are a really good example of it, to where they just they build accessibility and everything of that nature. So
hmm
uh,
Into the
into the
package, right?
package, to where I can play the game, or I can play the game how I want to play it. I can play it hard, I can play it normally, but each mode is not, it's not like just shoehorned in, because we have seen games where they just shoehorn in
hmm
difficulty modes and it's just completely unbalanced on the player on your side.
Well, difficulty is something that's its own topic for me because I hate games that have a hard mode where literally all it is that the enemies just have more health and like do more damage. Like that is the laziest kind of like design with it. So yeah, I don't you're right. Sony's games actually their studios do a really good job of striking that balance, you know. Last of Us 2 is actually a fucking amazing
Oh
example
no,
of
you're
accessibility
right.
without without taking away what the integrity of the game is, because you can completely customize difficulty in that game more than I've ever seen a game do, where you can literally you can turn off enemies' ability to see you, you know, to even like find you when you're in stealth. You can change how much damage they do. You can change all sorts of shit that most games would never let you change. And I am for that if the game can swing it. You know, like I think so. Like I know we bring up Sekiro and all that stuff, right? That's kind of the thing. Is ultimately it rests with the developers. That's where if they don't want to do it, then don't do it because they're not going to do it well if they don't want to do it. You know, like that's the thing. So it can hurt the game. Whereas Naughty Dog goes out of their way. They want to do that, you know, and they did it fucking exceptionally well, you know, as a result. So yeah. Montrell. I think we should call it.
Yeah.
We've been going for a while here, man. We stretched an episode with no news to over 2 hours. So, you know, man, look at us, pro podcasters. This is how we do it. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say before we go?
Nope, that's it.
Excellent. Okay, so for those of you still listening, please like the show, review the show, subscribe to the show on whatever feed you're listening to it on, and please share it with your friends. If you'd like to interact with us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrefTheHokage for Montrell. That's the number 4, not the word. I'm at ThunderNut01. The show is at The Player's Take. If you'd like to send us a question, you can send it to us on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And that is it for us, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.